My name is Jane Mushoki. I'm a director of Memorable Deca in events. We do events and outside catering in general. We started this company back in 2012. We started as a very small company. By that time, we were just specializing with Deca and the clouds, where we are today. And we were doing very small events. We had not gone and we had not done an extension of corporate events. But as the company kept on growing every year since 2012, now we are doing large businesses. We have really entered into outside caterings, corporate functions, weddings, mostly, let's say, all the events. We are also doing events consultancy as a firm, and we are also doing wedding planning, inclusive in our package. When we were starting this business, it's very good to be honest. We started it as a very small business. Actually, I was doing it within my compound. And every time a customer would say, we want to come to your office and we want to do a demo setup, I could always welcome them to my house compound. I could tell them that's where my offices are, as we are waiting to establish our company in a larger way. A wedding client will always come to you. They specialize with the Deca. As you know, that wedding is all about Deca. For that one, we will come sit down with the customer. The first thing we would want to know, there are those things that you would want to know before you discuss further about a wedding. The first, you want to know the date of the wedding, to check on your diary whether you are booked. Second, you want to know the number of packs. You also want to know the color scheme of the wedding. You also want to know the venue, if they have an option of the venue they would want, or they want you to plan for them. That means you outsource everything for them, like photography and videography. Sometimes as a company, we do cakes. Our client normally pays the first deposit. We normally come to do dummy setup. We have an allowance of 3 dummy setups for your function. Because we are very sensitive, and especially weddings, we would want to do exactly what we agreed with you. So we will come do a table setup. We'll show you the kind of linen that we shall use for your event, so that when you come on that material day, we'll not argue that this was not my color. Because in this industry, and especially now that things are coming from China every day, you will get a customer will come and say, my wedding is blue and red. There are different kinds of colors in red and blue. For us, we have to be very specific on the type and the color that the customers want.
A very good morning to you. Thank you so much for creating time to join us right here on News Check on this 12th day of the first month, the year 2021. And we are having this program at a time when we are just about to mark the anniversary of the Dusit D2 Hotel attack that took place just the other year. And we are going to be talking about war on terror in this particular conversation. I welcome you to be part of the conversation right here on News Check, a program that seeks to explore issues that are shaping the news in our country as we also follow up on some of the events that are happening today in Kenya's capital, Nairobi, and other parts of the country. So in between the program, we will be taking you to various activities that are currently underway in our country that will form part of the news that we have today. Now, today in our studios, we want to talk about the war on terror and, of course, just zero in on how we can eradicate radicalization in our country. Terrorism, of course, remains to be the biggest transnational security challenge globally. And, of course, we remember what we have gone through as a country. Kenya still grapples with some of the effects that come with these terror attacks. We remember the 1998 bomb blast, the Westgate Mall attack. We remember the Mpeketoni attack in the county of Lamu, the Garissa University attack that left 147 people dead, and of course the Dusit D2 hotel attack along 14 Riverside Drive, and the list continues. But we have done a lot in terms of interventions to mitigate some of these attacks, and of course just to create awareness on what we can do to prevent, of course the focus in preventing such attacks in the near future. That is what we want to talk about. What have we done right? What more do we need to do? What ground is left for us to cover in the war on terror in our country? And joining me to have this very important conversation, I'm having a panel of two gentlemen. I'll start by introducing the gentleman at the center there. His name is Joseph Opondo. He is the Deputy Director, National Counter-Terrorism Center. Thank you so much for creating time for us.
Thank you.
And of course, we have from the far left, that is Felix Opondo. He is a clinical psychologist consulting for the center, that is the National Counter-Terrorism Center. Thank you so much for creating time for us as well. All right, so we'll talk about the strategies, we'll talk about the psychological aspect of it, and of course, we'll talk about also what are some of the loopholes that we need to seal going forward if we are to win the war on terror in our country. But gentlemen, I started by just, mentioning just quite a number of terror attacks that we have witnessed in our country. And this morning, I want us to paint a message of hope for Kenyans. And I'd just like your opening remarks to tell us whether you think, we are making progress with what we have done as a country in winning the war against terror. I'll begin with you, Director, and then, of course, just get your views as well, Felix.
Thank you, Madam. The war on terror is global. War. Kenya is just one of the countries that have been hit, though in the region we have been hit more than the other countries. The Kenya government has marshaled all the resources, both material and human resources, to react to this terror, and when it has happened in the past, but currently there are in place mechanisms to be ahead of the curve in the war on terror. There are so many strategies that are in place so that we mitigate against the underlying factors that the terrorists can use to attack the country. We are involved in so many strategies, proactive, that is, an innovative, a lot of innovations to make sure that we harden the so-called targets for which can be used by the terrorist, because the aim of the terrorist, by far and by large, is to create fear and attack the democratic principles and ideals of the country, attack the cohesion which is there among the Kenyans. We know Kenya is a multi-ethnic society, a multi-religious society. Every Kenyan has a belief in something. Mm-hmm. They believe in God. Even our constitution talks of our belief in God, not a particular religion. Now, these people are always after seeing that this cohesion is disrupted. So the Kenya government and the peoples of Kenya have made a resolution and have resolved that never again will they be pushed into that situation of fear. And that's why you could see even after the Dusit attack, yes, there were some deaths, but the Kenyans came out strong to rally support behind the security agencies that did a very good job, and they were happy with the way the security agencies handled themselves, which sent a message out there that even if you attack us, but the resilience of the communities, the resilience of the Kenyans. And one thing that came out after the recent attack is that this time there was nobody coercing anybody to go and maybe donate blood to the victims. Kenyans marshaled
they came out.
They came out on their own.
Spirit.
They entered pro boxes. They entered ward and went out to various hospitals where the victims had been taken to, and it was a community. It was a Kenyan approach, supporting the security agencies.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Felix, you know, he has expressed confidence in how we are moving forward as a country, even though we have faced some of these challenges. From where you sit, do you think we are learning? Do you think we are becoming flexible enough to the change as we go? Are we mutating in our war against terror in the country?
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that very important question. I just want to go back to what CS Amina Mohammed had said one time when she was actually, I think that was during the Garissa University attack or Dusit, and she was confronted by the international press, and they were asking questions because they're trying to bring it out the perspective that there was laxity for it to have happened. They're trying to bring out the international press was talking about that probably the country did not act on the intel and etc. Of course, you know what the international community would always want to focus on. And she answered them very well that one thing is that you may never know how many goals are saved. People only focus on the goals that are scored. And therefore, I, in my own opinion, and also as an actor in this, one important aspect is that probably there are so many goals, there are so many balls that are saved by the country. And probably we need not to only focus probably on a goal that has been scored. So I believe that the country is making very great progress. Yeah.
And that is what we want to hear this morning. That is what we want to hear this morning. I'll stay on you a little bit because I'm just about to, you know, find out how the National Counterterrorism Center fits in this narrative. But I just want to understand, many a times when these attacks happen, as a psychologist, that there's so many people who usually ask why. Why us? Why innocent people? What is the motive behind? Just take us through what you think, you know, is the biggest, you know, motivator for such attacks to happen, and why our country has been termed as the soft target.
I may not really think of our country being a soft target, but I really think about the resilience of our people being very, very important and very critical. You asked a very, very important question. Why kill the masses? Now, terrorism.
Why students? Why women? Yeah. Why children? You know, this is something that many people do not really understand.
I want to go back to conversation that has always been there. In fact, there are some people that say, look at it, that the war on terror has been overrated everywhere. There's a school of thought that looks at that, and they say that road accidents kill more people than the total number of people who have died from terror attacks. That probably other areas, famine and etc., kill more people. Diseases kill more people, and therefore probably the perspective is: are we overrating when it comes to the issue of the terror attack? I'd want to say this: terrorism thrives on threat. Terrorism thrives on intimidation. Terrorism thrives in terms of creating fear, and because that is the perspective, it's totally different from other forms or other calamities or the tragedies that the country may go through, and because they thrive in that, when they are able to attack, when they are able to kill, when they're able to maim, then that is what their ultimate goal is. Cause fear in the country, cause fear within the security system, within the government system. And you just know very well that you kill an old lady, you kill a child, you kill masses, and then you are able to achieve that. So such kinds of killings for the innocent, is actually, it helps them to be able to meet their ending goal in terms of what they want. Because if that fear, intimidation is actually created, then they're achieving their goal as a terror group.
fear and intimidation, the phobia, that is what they want to create. And I'll add to what the director said earlier, division as well is one of the things that they use to take advantage and just, sort of implement some of their agenda in different countries. Let's get to understand how the center fits into this narrative, Bona Director. Just tell us a bit about the National Counter-Terrorism Center. What is your mandate and how does it seek to change the narrative in the war against terror in the country?
The National Counter-Terrorism Center is set up as a multi-agency outfit. It draws its members from the major security agencies as laid down in the Constitution. Now, they come together and they act on strategy, policies, and any other innovative measure that can work on the war against terrorism. The main role of the center is responsible for the coordination of the national counterterrorism efforts in order to detect, deter, and disrupt any terrorism act before it takes place.
Taking a preventive approach.
Preventive approach.
All right.
Now, without prejudice to the subsection of the center, which is established under the Security Laws Amendment Act of 2014, we established a database to assist law enforcement operatives. We have conduct public awareness to sensitize people. When you go out and talk to the people, they understand you and they know how prepared they can be. This is one way of for prevention and creating resilience among the communities. Then develop strategies such as counter and de-radicalization, so that every Kenyan is a player, is an actor into this. You can detect from the word go. Then facilitate building for counter-terrorism stakeholders. We have these agencies, non-state and state actors who are basically dedicating their efforts. Some of them at no fee at all. They just come out using their own patriotism to come and fight the war on terror. So the center helps them by giving them the capacity building so that they can be part and parcel of the country, of the citizenry. Then coordinate with other government agencies, provide security certification for aviation schools or companies. You remember like the 9/11, there was that pilot who just went learning how to fly, but he didn't have a future or an interest or a career in being a pilot. So we also liaise with the aviation schools so that at least we know the intentions and motivations where somebody wants to be in the air, up in the air. Now, the center has got a mandate to ask any government agency or any Kenyan to assist them in this war against terrorism. Now, this is not very easy, but it requires a lot of soft skills by the center officers who are the center, to talk to the people and be humble and reach out to the citizens so that at least they know that it is not the mandate of the government only, but it is also their mandate to defend their country. It's a collective responsibility where we marshal the support and the resources of every Kenyan, because like my friend, the consultant just said, the purpose, one of the purpose of the terrorists is to cause fear. Fear demeans a human being, and perhaps that is why in one of the holy books, the word fear related is mentioned 365 times. So if you are living in fear, you are possessed, you are all fear. You have fear behind, you have fear behind, you have fear the sideways. You lose your senses, you lose your ego, you lose your self-esteem. So you can't even go out. And when you can't go out, there will be no economic development, there will be no socialization, there will be no development, even mental development. You cannot go to school. And this is what the terrorist wants, so that at least you are taken to zero, to level zero from where you are. So members of the public have a responsibility to furnish the center with any information relating to terrorism. And I must tell you here that we, over the last 3-4 years, this is forthcoming, a lot of it, from the members of the public who have resolved that this country belongs to them and security starts with them, not just with the security agencies. Even the relationship between the security agencies and the members of the public has greatly improved, in as much as the government has also directed a lot of resources to make sure that the security agencies are well resourced, adequately resourced to respond to these acts, especially before they take place, to disrupt them.
All right. Yeah. I'll take you back on that later as we talk about, the relationship between members of the public and the security agencies and how this can also help. But Felix, one of the issues that the director touched on there as part of the mandate of the center is to, engage the public, sort of create awareness when it comes to matters terror. If you look at, how I would say victims of the previous attacks have conducted themselves. Going forward, what do you think is the most important information that the public needs to understand to better arm themselves in the event you find yourself in such an attack, at the heart of that attack? Do we even know the first points of action that we need to take as members of the public? What would you like to tell them?
First and foremost, when an attack has taken place, that is now the work of the security agencies. They're the first people that get into the scene. And of course, we also have the media going there. Maybe as time comes about, I'll talk about probably the media and the role of the media. But one important aspect is that we've had the public also intruding into such scenario. It's within the public domain that when the Dusit attack took place, then when the Westgate attack took place, we had members of the public, and especially I want to imagine those who are licensed to have guns. They also got into the place to assist. I think one and the most important is a policy on that, because from my own perspective, when such an incident happened, of course, there will be security condoning of the place. And probably the question now comes, these are members of the public. What is their role in that particular scenario when the attack takes place? Two, also, we have the victims who are inside the buildings. And one of the things that happens with them that, of course, there is panic. Of course, there is fear. And it's really important to sensitize, and especially this is one of the things that has happened, especially the sensitization, so that the building owners and people in a certain building, part of the security procedures, I believe, should be also to let them know that in the event of such a tragedy, a terror attack, and etc., what are they supposed to do? Because we've found that there are several people probably who have fallen victims and they have been killed because at that particular moment they didn't know what they need to do at that particular moment.
We'll talk about that in a bit, Felix. We are picking up from that point because it's important for you and I to know how to conduct yourself in the event you find yourself in such a scenario. And even before we have an attack in our country, what is it that you can do as a Kenyan, as part of the public, just to be able to help us prevent terror attacks? Providing information is one way to go about it, plus others that we'll talk about in this particular conversation. Right now, we want to go to Mombasa County. We have our reporter, Ann Buru, who has been following up on the industrial action by healthcare workers in the region. Currently, we just have a briefing from some of the students, KMTC students in the coastal region who are decrying, among other issues, how, the industrial action has affected them. They will be, talking about how this has affected their studies. And of course, also right now, let's just listen into the healthcare workers on some of the grievances that they are raising this morning.
And they should wait for the court to pronounce themselves on this matter. It is not fair, and we don't welcome all those unlawful measures they have taken against our members. And lastly, I want to say this, that as healthcare workers in Mombasa County, we are very sad that the employer and the governor himself have not taken charge and responsibility over this issue. So the citizens of this country want to urge you, can you ask your political leaders in this country whom you elected to take responsibility and give you answers as to why in Mombasa County we have not been able to have healthcare services for the last over 70 days. That is all I wanted to say. I welcome my brother here from the Nurses Union.
Yeah, my name's Peter Morocco, the branch secretary, Kenya National Union of Nurses. It's very ridiculous, as my colleague has said, that for the employer, especially in Mombasa and the Kisii County, to sack somebody who has sat in class for 6 good years in a sitting, in a meeting that did not even deliberate on the pertinent issues that are affecting health workers in Mombasa. It doesn't really add up for Mombasa County to dismiss doctors who have been who they have employed and have been trained by the same government for close to 6 to even up to 12 years, those who are specialized. So we are really astonished by the measures the county government is currently taking, instead of addressing the issues as they are, by holding the horn by its horn, the bull by its horns, so that they address the issues. We have actually very simple things that we've raised with the county government of Mombasa. Pay the remittances, and that is all. And call us for negotiation, then we return back to work. But the measures you are taking are really unorthodox as it is, and we don't think that we'll bow to your pressure. We will not bow to your pressure. We've engaged you for so long, since June last year, up to today. You know your weakness. You know what you have not been able to do. Take it up. The governor needs to come in. You cannot keep quiet for close to 2 months. The citizens of this country are suffering. They are not getting health services. People are dying in the villages. And the governor is so silent on this matter, and we know he can pile up pressure on this national government to release the funds they are talking about. 3 months in disbursement, which the national government has not really sent to the counties, is worth enough for them to even come and join us here, so that we can push this agenda forward as collectively as an employer and the employees. Another thing, nationally, I believe the Council of Governors is actually letting us down. What does it take to compensate an employee who has died on duty? We are asking the national government and the Council of Governors to ensure that our colleagues who have succumbed, their families, get compensated. That is it. And the risk allowance is worth for us to motivate us to go back to work. But when you are taking politics in place of performance of your towards the employees you are employed, it really makes us think that we made the wrong decision to elect you into office. And it's time that the Kenyans think of this Council of Governors generally and do away with them come 2022, so that we can elect people who think well with about the citizens and the employees they have employed. We shall all be in solidarity until these issues are addressed. We are not going to let it go. We shall hold it strong until, even if it means 5 months like we did it in 2017, we shall. And we are ready to go. Even if you stop our salaries, even if you issue us dismissal letters, we shall address them. And you know what we can do. As unions, we have taken all measures necessary. Because you cannot fail on your way of doing things and then you want to force us to go back to work. It's really very painful, especially here in Mombasa, for the issues we have been trying to address for 6 months, and yet we are here. This is 2021. The employer cannot take any good action. Instead, you are calling people back to work. It doesn't add up. So we are calling upon the Department of Health and the Chief Officer, the Public Health, please stop issuing people with letters to demand that they report back to work. Anybody, even if somebody is on leave, let you know it from today that we are all on strike, because the issues affecting us here affect all those who are on leave and who are not on duty at this time. And therefore, the only duty we demand our members to report to is to report under this tree until the county government to Mombasa addresses our issues.
We want to announce ourselves on the issue of BBI as healthcare workers unions in Mombasa County. We want to be very categorical that we as healthcare workers unions, we are left with no option other than rallying our members, rallying our families and friends, and those public members who believe in us as leaders, that we shall ensure that this BBI thing, then it has no other chance to live other than dying. And therefore, because they have not been able to handle our issues, despite all the push, what is the guarantee that when the resources are added to the counties, they will be able to address the healthcare services? They will be able to address the issues of the healthcare workers and the public. We have noted even from the 15%, there is no accountability from the county government. Therefore, we shall rally our members. If these issues are not addressed, we shall rally our members in Mombasa County To be specific, all the healthcare workers that are working under the government and those in the private to go and vote against the BBI, because it is very clear that the government and even the now opposition, which is also in the government, are not keen to address the issues affecting the common mwananchi. Thank you so much.
Wananchi power! Wananchi power! Wananchi power!
Now this is the 9th week, as our colleagues have said, we have not been addressed. If this was a tender in the Ministry of Health, it could have been addressed so long. But right now we have been here for the 9th week. Our members' matters are becoming worse. Most of our members have been listed on CRB. We are not going back to work. All these intimidations from our employer, we welcome them. We shall be coming to report under this tree until all the issues are being addressed. It's so funny that our government has always been claiming they are broke. But you can pay billions of money for tea. You are broke. You can build a kilometer of road with 1 billion shillings. You are broke. You can increase the number of senators in this country. You are broke, but you can buy a mask that we are buying in the street for 10 shillings at 750 shillings, and you are broke. This is the time to address our issue. Health workers have a choice to make. Wherever health workers are right now, we have an issue here. We have to choose between a job and life. We have chosen a job for so long. Right now, we are choosing life. We have members who have succumbed to COVID. Their relatives are suffering. Their children are suffering. They cannot go back to school. Some of our members have succumbed without their salaries. Remittances are not being done. We have a choice that we have made right now. We welcome all those intimidation, but we are not going to go back to work without a solution. And we also call upon other organizations, human rights. People here in Mombasa are suffering. We are also suffering because we also need these services. Therefore, as a representative of the laboratory department, we are going to even review all these things. Even if it means we are going to stop the COVID testing, collecting of samples in this country, we are going to do it. Because our colleagues are doing that work, and when it comes to matters of hospital bills, we are solving them through WhatsApp. We are the people to make contribution. No more of this. We have said no more and no more. If it is intimidation, sacking, spot checking, we call upon you to continue doing them, but we are not going to bow down. Thank you very much. I'm Moses Maingi. I'm the Secretary General of Kenya National Union of Laboratory Officers in Mombasa County.
Thank you so much. God bless
All right, that is coming to us live and direct from Mombasa County. There speaking is Moses Maingi, the Secretary General of the Kenya National Union of Laboratory Officers in Mombasa County, just adding his voice on some of the grievances raised by the healthcare workers in the coastal region who are still on strike, raising among others the issues of they want improved working environments, promotions, delayed payment of salaries, and what they say also is a non-remittance of statutory deductions. And the healthcare workers, according to what we are getting this morning, still maintain that they are not going to bow to any form of intimidation and threats of being sacked as they continue to push for some of their grievances to be addressed before they report back to work. Services have been paralyzed in several health facilities across the coastal region, and it's a story we are still tracking for you. We'll be giving you regular updates as soon as we get new information from the coastal region. Now, in studio, we've been talking about eradicating the war, eradicating terror in our country. We are winning this war, according to my panelists this morning. They are expressing hope, expressing confidence that our country has put in place quite a number of measures that are really, indicating good progress when it comes to eradicating terror in our country. I'm talking about Joseph Opondo, the Deputy Director of the National Counter-Terrorism Center. And of course, I'm also having a sit down this morning with Felix Opondo, a clinical psychologist consulting for the National Counter-Terrorism Center. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for staying on. Now, before we went to Mombasa, I was, having this conversation with you, Felix, and we were just talking about what the public ought to know as their role when it comes to eradicating terror. And you had just highlighted something very significant on how, you know, some members of the public, in the way they conduct themselves during an attack, may compromise the processes that go on, the investigations, and even the work of the security agencies who are trying to control the situation. I'd just like you to highlight more and tell us more about what the public need to do, the do's and don'ts, so that we cannot, you know, miss the point when it comes to how we are managing terror in our country.
Thank you so much, Safina. Just going back to what I had said earlier, when there is an attack, because in the city, preventing terrorism, what really becomes important is the 4 P's. The 4 P's comes whereby we talk about the first P is to prevent. When you talk about preventing, the members of the public are coming in very strongly in preventing extremism, radicalization, and etc. And 2, and we also talk about pursue. Pursue now, that now comes to the security agencies. And there's also protecting, which also comes within the security agencies. And there's also the preparing. So the members of the public comes in the 2 P's. The P for preventing and the P for preparing. And what I'd mentioned earlier had to go so much with the aspect of preparing. And there is need for the members of the public to be prepared. We've seen in situations where there's an attack, the members of the public are all there. Everybody is moving there. And that might jeopardize the security forces on the ground in terms of being able to contain.
Everyone is curious, where is the blast coming from?
Yes,
everyone is going towards that direction.
Yes. I'd say first and foremost that it is important for us that every other person knows their role. The members of the public know their role, the media know their role, the security organs know their role, and of course they work within their role. Now, in terms of the preparation, one of the things that I'd mentioned is that it's important for the members of the public to be very vigilant. Not only vigilant within the building, even vigilant within where we are staying, because recruitment takes place where we are. In every other aspect, there's no part that is secluded from the recruitment. And in any terror attack, there's always recruitment. And recruitment takes place in so many, actually it is a circle. Recruitment takes place in identifying the target, surveillance for the target, when it comes to transporting the arms and etc. Recruitment takes place in every other aspect. So it's very important for the members of the public, one, to become very vigilant. Now, the vigilance here in the members of the public becomes critical. I'll give an example. Assume I'm parking my car somewhere, and I go and I park my car and I leave. When I come back, I say that just check for me that car. When I come back, I give you 1,000 shillings after I just parked my car. That is suspicious. Why should I give you 1,000 shillings? Just check for me this car, and then I come back. Probably I'm putting you in a situation whereby eventually you'll feel that you owe me. And the moment that you start feeling that you owe me, then I can be able to manipulate you and do every other aspect. Being vigilant is trying to look at such situations.
So it's the simple things that count, the everyday behaviors and character. That counts. Even the little things, like somebody giving you money to do something. You really need to question why. Okay.
Because at some point, let me just mention this at this particular moment. There are certain people that are recruited to become agents without knowing that they're agents. Probably later on, when the investigations are now happening, is when they come into the web. So we need to be vigilant about those. They may sound very simple, but they're very, very critical and they're very, very important. Now, apart from the vigilance also, it's also important that if there's any fear in the members of the public, reporting it, I'd want to imagine, to the relevant security agencies becomes also very, 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 very important. At the same time also, it's also important for the members of the public, if I'm in this building, I need to know which are the exits in this building.
In case anything happens.
In case anything happens, be it fire, be it attack, which are the exits in this place and where are they? Because that is what would be able, that comes in the first P that I was talking about, that concerns itself with the preparation. Now, during the attack, it's important for the members of the public, it's important for those inside the building and even with the members of the public, one, even if you have someone in that building, in that place, my advice would be don't call. Because sometimes you might call, because for the terrorists, it's about the numbers. It's about the numbers. They want to have maximum in terms of maiming, killing, and destruction. Sometimes you may call someone, and that is what, and it happened at Garissa University, you may call someone because you're in panic mode away.
How do you control that? I mean, you have your loved one caught up in a building that probably is in the news that, you know, has been attacked by terrorists. How do you not call them to find out how they are doing, whether they are safe?
It calls for what we call restraint, because there is the urge, and this can create psychological dilemma. There is the urge to call, and there is that push to call. But this is what we need to actually also push backward, so that I can also be able to have restraint. And what do? Can I be able to develop confidence that the security officers and every other person that is on the ground, they're doing their best? Because that call may jeopardize a group of people or that particular person. And we also advise that those who are in the building, it's also important for them to put off their phone.
Phones,
And if not putting it off, then they should actually have it totally silent. I would rather that you text if you're in a position to be able to say, I'm in this particular place, rather than actually calling. It's also important that, as I said, that get to know which are the exit, and it's also important to try to be calm. Try to be calm, because anxiety is raised at that particular moment, and anxiety, when the anxiety levels are raised, the flight, then I might find myself, I'd want to get into flight, and at that particular moment is when probably I might be able to put myself at risk. Now, normally, security officers would respond very, very fast, and it would be very important because they would be able to communicate, follow the security protocol at that particular moment, not acting independently, but following security protocol. There are others who may want to rescue other people. Even as you are rescuing other people, also look at your own security, because in Dusit, there are those who died, and we supported them. I'm sure the deputy director will talk about how we supported these people. Some of them died just because they were rescuing people. It's important to rescue others even as you are escaping, but it's also important to also look at your safety even as you're doing this, because you might put the life of those others also at risk at that particular moment. Now, after the attack, then psychological support becomes very important.
Why don't we leave it at that?
Because
that is where you thrive. And I was just about to talk about, supporting the survivors and just taking them through processing what has just happened. But that we'll talk about later. Let's also allow the director to come into this conversation. He has really touched on what to do at the heart of the attack as part of the responsibility of members of the public. Probably you could have something to add on what he has said, and also talk to us about some of the things that are being done currently in our country to sort of educate members of the public on some of the things that he's talking about this morning.
Yes, thank you, Safina. What we have done, we have had a very robust programs to go out and educate Kenyans, sensitize Kenyans on how to behave in circumstances of active shooter.
We have such programs?
We have those programs. Okay. We have gone out, we have taken the members of the public at various fora, maybe in their churches, in their local communities. How do you behave when you find yourself under circumstances of such attacks in this country? One, we tell them how to remain calm, the use of mobile phones, and how to respond to the security agencies, the leadership of the agencies on the ground, to take instructions. So if you are told, like the last attack at Dusit, the commandant, yes, he was fully in charge, and he was leading the direction, the operations. So if he tells you, lie down, follow this direction, I'm glad to say that most Kenyans obeyed, and that may perhaps limited the casualties, the number of casualties that we had. But by and large, we have gone out and we have used a number of forums. We have we use situations like when head teachers are having their annual conferences, the frontline security agencies, the private security sector players, and all other bodies or organizations that are interested. Some of them call us at the center, and we give targeted lectures on just how to behave under active shooter.
What about our schools, our colleges?
We have gone to colleges.
Is there a necessity for this information to also...
We have gone there. In fact, what we have done is that whenever the universities have their first years, as part of the induction, we at the center always send officers to go and sensitize the newly admitted students and how to behave, because our universities have been targets. We have also had a deliberate move, and we have trained all the deans of universities in this country. We have trained all the registrars, both academic and administration registrars, because they're the ones who live with these students, on awareness of how to behave, not just detecting radicalization taking place in the universities, and even how to behave. We also have a lot of conversation that we carry on to the members of the clergy, the leadership of the clergy in this country, because the churches were also parts of the targets. We have had a lot of involvement by the clergy, the topmost, who we take them, we sensitize. We have also gone further and deliberately done vulnerability and risk assessments on various learning institutions in this country, and even churches, so that we can advise them on any possible loophole and maybe those exit routes.
I like the strategy of using the leadership and the opinion shapers, you know, the key people.
And influencers.
Influencers, because they can now pass this information down to the people that they are in charge of.
Yes.
Do we have like documented this information? Is it documented anywhere in a book or whatever, so that in case any person or like me, I want to access such information, I can be able to have like a document where I can read? Do we have books? Do we have content for this information?
Oh, okay. Currently, I can say we don't have, apart from the handouts we give, and the tips we give in terms of soft copy to those that participate in our programs. What we have now documented, which is going out to the public in the next few days, is a document we have done in collaboration with the Ministry of Education, Child Safety Against Violent Extremism, which we have done, and the CS just before Christmas signed the document, and with the ambassador, Dr. Kimani, and me as part of the team, and it is out there in the printer. We expect that in the next 2-3 days, the booklets will be out, and we shall distribute them out to the rebellious education institutions. Then from that, we can take the war forward. Now, at the Kenya School of Government, we also developed a curriculum which will be used in training state and non-state actors in security management issues with the bias on CV and radicalization. Already, there's an institute, full-fledged institute, which has been established at Kenya School of Government, and which is going to be coordinated between the National Counterterrorism Center and the Kenya School of Government. We have signed an MOU, and we are moving forward.
It is already in place.
It is already in place. So we have done 2 trial test lessons, though virtual because of the COVID-19 disruption, and we have test-driven the curriculum. So we just want to put in the final bullet holes, so that we can...
Who is the target population for the
target population, this one we are targeting those who are involved in security related assignments in various organizations in the country, both state and non-state organizations.
All right.
Yeah.
Allow me, gentlemen, to take you to, something that was going to form a major part of our conversation, because this is where it all starts. These groups cannot operate without people, and these people they get from among us, community, from families, from churches, from schools. So let's talk about radicalization. That is part of your mandate as a center to really, really fight this vice as part of winning the war on terror. I want you to talk to us, Director, about how bad the situation is and what you think has been the biggest loophole that these terror groups are taking advantage to each and every day continue to sort of paralyze the future of our young people in the society. What is it that they are taking advantage of that we need to be sensitive to as a society?
I don't think the situation is as bad as you are trying to paint it. Maybe some...
Correct me.
Some 6, 7 years.
Prove to me that it's not that bad.
Yeah,
if you look at the coastal region, the northeastern region, and the mothers who continuously keep complaining and crying about their young people joining these groups. Tell me something different.
Yeah, let me tell you. For the last maybe 6 years ago, the situation wouldn't be what you are saying.
Okay.
But currently, as I'm talking today, 12th of January 2021, the situation is different because we have proactively gone out and built community resilience among the Kenyan's population out there, both in the government-related institutions and private-related institutions. Now, we have created an awareness of even mothers, their parents, the teachers, caretakers, caregivers, to detect any sign of radicalization among the youth. Yes, we have not won the war, but we are there. At least today, every part of this country, somebody knows that there's something called de-radicalization program. And we are grateful also to the non-state actors like the community-based organizations, the NGOs, who are also assisting, supplementing our efforts after we take them through these programs and giving them the leadership and the material capacity building. So I can say that perhaps that is why you could see that currently there's some calm in the country, because at least every Kenyan knows that there's something called de-radicalization, something about CVE. It is in their lips. We have demystified some of these titles and made people talk about it. We have involved at the coast region. We have involved the Shairi and Tarab artists to come up with their works, preaching cohesion, preaching child education, especially girl education. We have involved the mamas, the mothers. The role of the mothers is very important. When we get down to, of course, we have got groups like the Sisters Without Borders, which was actually an NCTC initiative. We supported it, and we are still supporting it. So we have a number of women organizations
that you're working
we are working with, because the role of the mother is very important in de-radicalizing and in this war against terror. Mother is always number one.
All right. Yeah. Felix, probably you can also add on to that. I mean, there are concerns that the patterns of recruitment are changing. Initially, focus was on high-risk areas that were targeted for recruitment, like the northeastern region, the coastal region. But currently, we are seeing it happen almost in every part of the country. And even the age that was being recruited is going down each and every day. Probably talk to us about, what more you have to add on that subject.
Thank you so much. Recruitment, I would want to say this. If you can be able to stop recruitment, if you can be able to prevent recruitment, there is no terrorism. With no recruitment, there is no terrorism. And that's why the war on terror should, the conversation should also now focus so much on curtailing recruitment. And the terror group recruitment is a very important aspect in terror group because they thrive on the recruitment. So one of the things that, especially in the terms of the prevention, we really need to focus so much on curtailing recruitment. I would want to start by saying that. And just to go back to what you've said, recruitment patterns are changing. initially recruitment was covert, but today the recruitment is actually overt. Recruitment is changing because online recruitment is so active. And there are those sites, those sites that they can be able to get to. There are sites where they can be able to be trained. There are sites where they can be able to be radicalized. And this again, whereby the conversation should also move to actually online recruitment. That is very active.
So in the safety of your home, actually, if you're not careful, somebody can actually just recruit your child to a terror group just within the house.
Let me tell you this.
Online.
Let me tell you this. Initially, the perspective would be, and I'd want to say this, because every home has, every middle family home has internet. Generally, middle-level family homes have internet. And what is happening is that initially, the question is, and as you talked about the younger age being recruited, and more so, the teens are very vulnerable, and the youth. And we have programs for that. We have an ongoing program for the teens. Now, initially, as a parent, I would be very happy and excited if I go home, I find my son at home. I would be very excited if I find that my son is not going out and mixing with other boys, gang of boys and etc. I would be very excited. I would be very excited if my son is in his or her laptop. I mean, if my son or my daughter is in his or her laptop, and I would know that something meaningful is taking place. But the danger today is that they may be at home throughout, but what are they doing? Watching? What are they watching? Some of them may stay late at night. In my comfort, I think that my son, my daughter is actually studying, but that might not be the case. And these sites are so obsessive and compulsive to the extent that the moment that you access them, you cannot be, pulling yourself out of it becomes very difficult. This is where active recruitment is taking place, including training them in various aspects that are security related. It's taking place, the online recruitment. Yeah.
Wow.
In fact, Safina, previously we used to compete over the remote control at the sitting room, on the TV. These days, they don't care about that that small thing. Yeah. What they do, they have left us with those remote controls. They have left us at liberty to watch those channels we want. They are in their bedroom.
What are they doing?
Because this country has got estimated 4 million smartphones, and almost all our youth have got a smartphone, and the prices are going down. So through these smartphones, they can identify the sites. And now the danger with these sites is that you visit it once or twice. Now they keep on propping now. Once you have gone to these sites, now the information props even without you now visiting. Yeah. They visit you instead. Yeah?
They look for you.
They look for you.
You become obsessed.
And you
like
become obsessed and compulsive and addicted to them. So you say that now these days you can watch your program, you can watch your Maria guitar comfortably, but the boy will not interfere with you or the girl. He's very safe in his bedroom.
All right.
What happens in that bedroom, you don't know.
All right. Felix, Director, allow me to take a very short break. The conversation needs to move online.
Okay.
Let's think about that as we take this particular break. We are coming back to talk about how we are progressing when it comes to the war against terror. Stay with us. We are coming back with much more.
The battle for the last 16 places of the DFB Pokal, better known as German Cup, is on. As former champions Bayer Leverkusen and Eintracht Frankfurt face off, hoping to book their place against Otto Weiss Essen. Watch it unfold live on your true sports partner KBC Channel 1 on Tuesday the 12th of January from 10:45 p.m.
Muone Faisal ndio huyu aliwekelea bid ya TV na ndio hii anaenda nayo. Faisal, hebu tuambie ni vipi uliwekelea bid?
Nilienda kwenye website ya QuickBid. Nikatizama nikachagua kuwekelea kwenye TV. Sasa niliwekelea mara 3. Nikaja kwa mshindi, nikakutana bid yenye imenifanya kwa niko mshindi ilikuwa ni 168. Sasa leo nimekaitwa nikaja nichukue TV yangu.
Haya Faisal, mali yako.
Tukusaidie.
Asante.
Jiunga na QuickBid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bid yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16, kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bid yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bid ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio hununua. QuickBid, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
Get ready for a 3 weeks Africa Football Feast as the new year kicks off with the 6th edition of the African Nations Championship in Cameroon. From the 16th of January to the 7th of February 2021, 16 teams from the continent will be spread across 3 cities as the best players from domestic leagues showcase their talents live on KBC Channel 1. Let's support our own. Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Do you honestly think so?
Yes, I do. But worse than being blind is someone who refuses to see.
Lack of
Stop trying to make a fool out of me, please. You have done that many times. But I won't allow it again. Listen to me and look into my eyes. I said look into my eyes. I will not allow you to continue making a fool out of me.
Too bad, Father. Juliana can't make it on time for your birthday. I'm very sure that after your rebuff, she wouldn't want to speak with you again.
The battle for the last 16 places of the DFB Pokal, better known as German Cup, is on. As former champions Bayer Leverkusen and Eintracht Frankfurt face off, hoping to book their place against Ottoways SN. Watch it unfold live on your true sports partner KBC Channel 1 on Tuesday the 12th of January from 10:45 p.m. Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Where did you learn this?
Consider that I have found a new tutor.
Who had the audacity to do this?
Teacher!
Welcome back, and thank you so much for staying with us. And in case you're just joining us, this is News Check, a program that seeks to talk about some of the most important issues that shape your life, things that are happening in our country and beyond. And of course, we also follow up on some of the events that are happening right here in our country that form part of the news. Now, today we have been talking about a very important topic, and that is how we are progressing when it comes to the war against terror. We have talked about quite a number of issues, including part of the initiatives that as a country we have put in place to counter terrorism and violent extremism. Now in studio I've been talking to Joseph Opondo, the Deputy Director, National Counter-Terrorism Center, and Felix Opondo, a clinical psychologist consulting for the center. Both Opondos, by the way. Thank you so much for staying on. Now, before we went for the break, Felix, we were just having a very diverse conversation that got us to the point where we were trying to look at the online environment and how it can be tapped to abet terrorism if we are not careful. I just want us to pick up from there. Just enlighten us on some of the do's and don'ts when it comes to our online culture.
It's very important that when terror attacks happens, sometimes we are excited in taking photos. For those who are there, sometimes I may find myself that I'm in a situation whereby I can be taking photos. And then I find myself taking photos, and what do? I actually post these photos online. I post them on Facebook and every other social media that is there. One of the things that the moment that we are doing that, we are glorifying terrorism. Sometimes we may also do that, and we may actually reveal our strategy to the terrorists who are actually inside the building, because you can imagine that a situation whereby the security forces are storming the building, and maybe I have my phone and I'm recording that as they're storming the building, and then I post it online. These terrorists inside the building have an access to the very, very online where you are posting these things. Apart from that, that is what they want, because their aim is to create fear and also intimidation. So by posting these things online, we are actually glorifying terrorism. I'm so happy that the situation changed so much in Dusit, especially when the government came in. It was better when the government came in very, very strongly. Unlike in the other attacks that we've had, there was very minimal in terms of sending these pictures online. So in terms of the online, we may find ourselves that we are aiding terror in such activities. Yeah.
Okay. Director, probably also talk to us about, in your radicalization programs, what is it that you have identified as some of the motivating factors for young people to be recruited in these terror groups? The things that they take advantage of?
Most of the things they take advantage of is just the excitement and the urge to learn new things, because most of them are in the age of learning and trying to find out that anxiety. So they end up visiting sites which, if you look at it in reality, they didn't intend to, but they were carried by either peer pressure or youth groups and what have you. Then they find themselves lured into these things. Yeah. Yes.
Others have raised concern about joblessness, about somebody feeling like they have been mistreated by the society, and they go there to vent and prove that they are powerful. Are these also things that they explore from a psychologist's perspective?
I want to say
if you've been bullied, if you've been mistreated from your home environment, you feel like, let me just go and do something, in vengeance.
Yes and no.
Okay.
And now, let me start with the yes. Of course, if you have difficult childhood experiences, bullying in school, bullying at home, traumatic experiences from the hands of the parents, then this can actually also shape you into antisocial behavior. Sometimes you might have even the revenge for the very, very parents, and there's strong anger and revenge for the very, very parents. And you can find that probably you're getting into terror to punish your parents. You're getting into terror to revenge on certain things that could have happened to you. And you're meeting a psychological need. You're meeting a psychological need. Of course, it is it's not a rational way of meeting a psychological need, but you can find yourself that you're meeting a psychological need. So that is true. But then that aside, I want to say this, that we've talked about so much about unemployment. This is what has been sold over and over by, and especially by non-governmental organizations and some of these groups, that people get into terror because of lack of employment, because of probably poverty, because of all those factors. I do agree, but the question here is that not every, if that could be the situation, there's some parts of this country like Kibera and the rest whereby everybody could be radicalized and into terror because of probably the poverty level or the low economic level and etc. What I'd want to say here is that ideology is very important. Ideology is very critical. What happens is that all these factors that we say, unemployment, poverty, suffering, and all of them are served in a plate called ideology. Once they've been served in a plate called ideology, then I would be able to serve you. And that is very, very significant, especially as we talk about the area of recruitment. Yeah.
So we need to look at the ideology. What is the belief that somebody is subscribing to as a young person or just anybody in the society? Because that is what can be taken advantage of. I want us to talk about, something very crucial that many a times has been termed as something that, if explored, can really help us combat terror in our country. And this is religion. And there's something beautiful that the center is actually currently conducting, sort of really taking advantage of interfaith to counter violent extremism. I want us to talk about that. What motivated the center to think about that as something that can offer a solution first?
Yeah, thank you very much. The first thing is that when you come to our Constitution 2010, Kenya believes that there's a God. It does not talk about particular religion. So every Kenyan has got some orientation to some particular faith. Now we realize that the faiths we have in this country, apart from our forefathers' faiths that some of us still subscribe to, they are the Abrahamic faiths. We all believe in the faiths associated with the grandfather and Abraham. Now these Abrahamic faiths, Kenya has had a good history of long history of the coexistence with a number of our clerics, even studying interreligious harmony or comparative religions, and we have done very well where we have had a lot of harmony. Now, when the terrorists came, they knew one way of breaking the society was to break what we love most, that is faith, that's religion. Can divide us, apart from dividing us along ethnic lines, which they are not succeeding because now they try to plant that terrorists belong to particular tribes, which now they didn't succeed because now almost everybody is vulnerable to recruitment. Now they now thought the best thing that is binding Kenyans together is their religion, because Kenyans have got a strong affinity to religion. So what do is to plant the seed of discord within the religious organizations, the followers. So if you hit one faith, then the faith would rise up and start fighting the other faith. Then you have interreligious or interfaith disharmony and wars, like has happened in other parts of the world. So what happens is that what we have done as a center, we have coordinated and spearheaded the formation of various interfaiths. We have some like the strong ones, which started the war, the journey, the coast interfaith that has matured. In fact, from coast has devolved now to the counties in the coast province, where we found that in case somebody was recruited along a faith line narrative, you use the same system to undo, press the undo button, and then when there's an issue of that has come up, then these faith leaders, these leaders come together and they debunk the narrative that it is this faith fighting against this faith. So that
the stereotypes that are there in the society.
So what happens, members of different faiths, we have seen that there is need to mainstream them in the direction of using interfaith to overcome faith-based phobia. So there's no phobia. So we can sit on a cup and have a cup of tea, irrespective of the faith we have. Now, we have realized that if this is well articulated, the followers of different faiths will be constructively engaged within a context of interfaith domain, and this will help overcome intrafaith and interfaith differences, which could be exploited by recruiters into violent extremist activities, ideological contention, and even controversies, which in turn catalog into violent extremism. Now, this is something that the center has been emphasizing. We are already working on a strong interfaith clerical committee in Western, Nyanza and Western. We have established one with the support of the local leadership of those faiths in North Rift Valley, and we envisage where we shall have a national interfaith, a strong interfaith council of committee of elders, so that when it comes to issues of religion, these religious leaders can sit and sort out their issues. One, these people are trained, they are theologians. They might have gone through different paths, but at the end of the day, they all belong to Abrahamic faiths, either they are Hindus or whatever. They're somewhere where they have interconnection. Now, we have also carried this forward to some of the universities like Tangaza University College, which has got a full-fledged faculty on interreligious dialogue faculty, where these faiths come together and people go there to learn. A Christian can go and learn about Muslim, so that he understands.
I'm interested in knowing how this is working, though, because
so that he knows when a Christian goes and learns and does, in fact, what Islam is. In fact, as I'm talking to you, we have got a leading cleric in the Catholic Church who is well versed on Islamic religious. He has a master's degree in Islamic religious philosophy, and he majored on African brotherhood. So he understands jihadism very well, and he is a Catholic cleric. So we are also encouraging through Heshima Institute, run by the Jesuits, where the Muslims can also learn about Christianity, the Hindus can learn about the other religions. Not that you are being converted.
That is what I wanted to ask.
You remain where you are.
How do you sort of seek unity in an environment where there is already doctrinal differences?
That's now the role of the center. The center has a role to play the coordination aspect of all this, because what we want to bring them under one roof and tell them that the fact that you have different religious paths or faith paths does not mean you should rise up and kill your neighbor, because there's no faith that says kill your neighbor. All the faiths we have, they always talk about peace. Peace. All of them, they talk about peace. So where is this violence coming from? So what we need is that to make people understand how this interfaith cooperation has enabled Kenyans and by large followers of Abrahamic faiths to overcome the associated structural conditions which either directly or indirectly inform their extremism. So because every Kenyan wants to have peace, every Kenyan wants to have development, every Kenyan wants security. So why should your faith be exploited by somebody? Now, we have realized that when you take a Christian to learn about Islam, you are not converting them. Then he has a better understanding, so he cannot be cheated. A Muslim learning Christianity, a Hindu learning the others, and all the rest. So that we say, all of us will believe in God. The faith I belong to is just another line that will lead me to the path that I want to live to heal my spirituality. But otherwise, it should not be used to divide us. Now, the place of interfaith dialogue we have found it very important in fostering unity and harmony in institution building, as well as fostering intra-institutional dialogue in the direction of preventing violent extremism. Because even at the university level, you find that, let's say, a person of a various faith is contesting for particular leadership position, then the others will not go follow him because he belongs to this faith, but will follow him for what he brings on board and what he stands for as far as the objectives of that office are concerned. So I don't see a Kenyan in terms of their faith. And this is what we have tried at the center. I can say with confidence that the stereotyping of that had been there in the past by demonizing people because of the way they dress in terms of their religious orientation has really gone down with these enhanced approaches. And then we have found that humanity is based about good, being good. And the people who are trying to exploit these different paths in religion or in faiths, they were out to show that we are better. We are the ones who have got the key to heaven, or if the heaven exists, or to key to good life and the rest. But now with this kind of approaches, at least we are managing to convince that you follow your religion, follow your faith, and all faiths talk about peace, about love, about coexistence. As a Kenyan, for the Kenyan ideal, with the interest that we had at independence, national interest and values, then you just move on and we have no problem. Yeah.
All right. I'll just come back to you later, but is it possible, Felix, for us to achieve that unity amidst diversity, like what he's sharing with us?
I do agree with the Deputy Director. What he said is, what he just explained is really very important and is achievable. I want to give you an example. When I was at the university, I took a course for the 4 years, and that was outside my main course. I took a course in Islamic religious studies. I did Quran, I did Hadith. I did the whole of the Quran and I did the whole of the Hadith. And basically the religion is focused on Quran and Hadith. And I'm a Christian. And I'm a Christian.
What motivated you to do that?
And I wanted to know what lies in the other perspective. And that's why it becomes easier for me to respond. When I finished my university, before I got a job to teach Islamic studies. And
you're a Christian?
Yes, and I did. So it was just to appreciate what is on the other side. And I really want to emphasize what the Deputy Director has said. If you can have, with this actually having the interfaith and having Muslims know what is in Christianity, Christianity know what is in Islam, what it does is that it actually strengthens and is the foundation towards actually the aspect of the de-radicalization, because de-radicalization thrives in ideology, and ideologies are found in religion and politics. And basically in violent extremism, ideologies are founded within religion, and this can make us be able to have a different response to this. For me, it has really helped me, because you talk about something about Islamic faith, I have an idea. Yeah.
You cannot be misled.
I cannot be misled. I have an idea.
So, do our religious leaders, satisfactorily, embrace this in their day-to-day operations at churches, at mosques, and at the temple? Do they find a necessity to really address members of the public on such issues like terror?
I want to go back to what the Deputy Director said, that I believe, and as a consultant in the center, I believe that this has been achieved. It's not that it's being achieved. This has been achieved, because already all the interfaiths have been brought together. And remember, bring them together becomes very important, because today is not about. They're able to look at the narratives that are being spread, the narratives that are being taught to these young people. And they're able to actually not only counter the narratives, they're able to have alternative narratives. And remember that I said from the beginning that war on terror hinges so much on recruitment. And with this approach that the Deputy Director has talked about, I'm pretty sure and I'm convinced is going to take us to greater heights in this war against terror and violent extremism.
Do you have a few cases, though, where such platforms have been exploited to really popularize the wrong agenda to those who subscribe to that particular faith? Have you had such cases?
Yeah, at the onset of the terror war, terror in this country, the first thing was to try to hit the different followers of the different faiths, so that the faiths could fight that war on their behalf. Mm-hmm. But immediately we seized the opportunity. We started with the security agencies. We brought in the chaplains and the imams and sheikhs working the security agencies under one roof like this, and we had a mutual conversation. Now this went down, and I think these terror groups went away shy and annoyed in some inconstance. Mm-hmm. But because what we have also realized from the center, from the research, is that those who are recruited into this extremism, and by the way, extremism does not come from the Muslim path only. Mm-hmm. It also comes from the other faiths, even Christian extremism. And an extremist is an extremist. He can use any form of these faiths.
So we need to get out of the stereotypes.
The stereotypes.
And the misled branding.
Yeah, and the branding, so that at least, it is overdoing, and it is something that now you lose your identity into this kind of faith. You subtract yourself from being the human being, and now you plant some religious or some faith following or tenets are planted into you. Then you start denying your own self. You live in denial, so that even your cleric, their leader in the church or in the mosque, can tell you do this, and you just obey because you are loyal. Your loyalty level to that organization goes higher than loyalty and value system to yourself. Now, this country has got a nice code of conduct for how people should behave, but now you defy all those because you see those to be foreign and alien. Mm-hmm. Now, when you bring this conversation together on the round table, and with support of the other organizations, where you have a Muslim leader or a sheikh going to talk to a Christian fellowship or the rest, or the Christian fellowship does this. And the funny thing is that at the global level, you find, let's say, for example, the head of the Catholic Church goes to a synagogue, goes to a mosque. Now you wonder why the followers down here should not do the same. So this is what we are trying to drive into the minds of the Kenyans, so that nobody comes to hit you simply because you you follow a particular line in your belief in your God. Yeah.
Religion is just religion. It shouldn't be used as a weapon against the other person. No. Look at what has happened during the COVID-19 season, when the Interfaith Council came together and really came up with, at times of crisis like this, we can only work together if we are to win a war as big as this one. Yes. It won't add value if we are fighting against each other. It doesn't matter which faith you subscribe to, maybe of a different opinion, but that shouldn't be a weapon for me to use against you.
Correct. And by the way, when you are sick and you go to hospital and you are told to go to door 13, do you ask the religion or the faith of that person, the doctor you're going to see? You simply go loyally, diligently, and stay there till you are told get in. And the doctor you see there, whether he is an atheist, is a Legio Maria, is a Catholic, he'll treat you. What you want is the medicine, isn't it?
At the end of the day.
At the end of the day. What do we now, when these other things come, you start knowing,
yeah, well said. In your programs, do they ever get out, those who've been recruited into terror groups? And what is the process post, somebody has just been taken through such a program and they felt like, yes, I want to leave this group? What are some of the things that are done in terms of even ensuring their own safety and all that? Do you have cases of people who've really left that life and they've said, no, never again?
We have so many of them. So many of them. So many of our youths, so many of our people who have gone out there and they have chosen the path to come back. Because
this narrative of once you're in, there's no coming out.
They have come up so many.
You'll come out dead. It's not true.
They have come out, and we take them through a system of disengagement, rehabilitation, and reintegration back to society. Because some of them were suffering from hopelessness, and maybe the narrative that the grass is greener on the other path. So when they go there, they find that they don't know the quality of grass and how the other grass in that patch is treated. Then most of them, they pull on. And when they come back, at the center we have a document that I think is the only one in Africa, which has been developed in the system, some of our international partners, called the radar. This document, this instrument will always know at what level one person reached. Maybe it's on red, green, or red, or yellow. But now we know when you come back and you're on red, we know you may undergo through various actors. If you are green, so we know the pathway, the psychological pathway to recruitment. What made you accept to be recruited? And then we can now press the undo button, and then we can see how to take you through. If it was through a religious line, ideology, it was through these other narratives, then we know how to bring on board, who to talk to you, and then bring you back, and then we reintegrate you, and then get you back to society.
But at a later stage,
yeah, but
there's
it's a process
in between, yeah?
Yeah, it's a
you
process.
just don't take them back to their families
no,
immediately?
You don't force them.
Okay.
And first of all, they must be willing. They must have understood that they chose a wrong path. Yeah. Some of them will let the law take its course, but at some stage they they realize that there are mistakes, and they realize that they have to come back to society. So we facilitate them to have an easy return into society and get back to useful life. A number of them have come back, and they're doing very well.
Do you follow up to look at cases such as their security status and the stigma they could be facing?
Of course.
Do you follow up?
Of course.
Okay.
At the center, and that's why at NCTC and for the government as a whole, we have the strategy of countering violent extremism. And one of the pillars is on the psychosocial, where we have the psychologists that come in and assist the clinical psychologists like him, the forensic psychologists, the council psychologists, and even the religious leaders and the community-based organizations, even the government agencies, Ministry of Culture and Social Services, so that they can be socialized back to society. Okay, it is not very easy, but with the expertise we have in this country, and Kenya does not lack this expertise.
They're there.
They're there.
Felix is right here.
It's a matter of just harnessing them and coordinating them.
Felix, is it possible for somebody to really disengage from that former life? You could just close your eyes and you imagine the things you've done, the people, the buildings you've really destroyed, and the lives you know. Is it possible for somebody to disengage from all that?
We have disengaged. I have disengaged quite a number, and some of them who are in the some of them who you could not be able to imagine. These people can be disengaged. We have disengaged them. We have success stories of disengagement, and basically I would say that consulting for the center, we are taking a lead in the entire Africa and within the globe in terms of actually disengaging these people, success stories in the disengagement. So,
what role can the family and the whole society at large play in this whole process of, you know, sort of taking somebody through that journey? What is it that they can do as part of their support?
One of the aspects of the disengagement is reintegration. And the moment that we disengage them, we have to reintegrate them back into their own families and reintegrate them back into their own societies. Because by the time that they subscribe to these particular ideologies and this particular way of life, just like the deputy director said, that it removes them from themselves.
Some disowned their families, and the families disowned them.
These people, the moment that they get recruited, these people, actually one of the things is that these people are ready to make costly sacrifices. And that's what they do, what they do. These people have got sacred values that they ascribe to, that they actually cannot negotiate on those sacred values that they have within the in-group. They've got their sacred values. These people are really willing to die for their group and even willing to kill. When we are able to support these people in the disengagement, and they get back to their families, we have to again also reintegrate them with their families.
All right. Earlier we were talking about the terror and at the heart of the attack, yeah? And you had just started talking about this psychological support and what goes on in the psychology of somebody who has been a victim of terror. I just want you to just briefly touch on whether there are programs that also addresses some of the terror victims, just to support them through just processing that information and that experience. Is there anything to that effect?
Two things would go into the mind of a terror victim. One, some of them could actually suffer a diagnosable mental or psychological disorder, like post-traumatic stress disorder, or maybe acute stress disorder, or maybe some of them could manifest some brief psychotic disorders because of what they have been able to see. We talk about the issue of trauma. We get traumatized because of what we see. The five senses: what we see, what we touch, what we smell, what we taste. Mm-hmm. Within being a victim of terror attack, they're likely to go through this. And that's why we take them through, first and foremost, today, we take them through psychological first aid. Once we take them through psychological first aid, then later on, we can actually plan for long therapy sessions with them. And I'd want to say, probably, I know there's a program that the director and the center came up with, especially the Dusit attack, that was really significant in supporting the victims that we're talking about. Probably, may I ask if...
you can chip in and just tell us about that, because that is exactly what I'm asking. There are programs.
There are programs. In fact, in NCCV pillar strategy, we have a pillar on psychosocial support, and we have gone out and we have used it. And we did a good test drive after the Dusit attack. Within 2 hours of the attack, we were able to assemble leading psychologists in this country, and through one of the leading health facilities in this we have in this town, we got 4 rooms where all the victims that were admitted in hospitals, including their relatives, when they came to run, the relatives of those who were killed or even those who were hurt, they were taken through that psychological support to socialize them, so that they see this was just a terror attack. It was not something to stay in their life permanently. And today, as I'm talking to you, I think I can produce the list of all people who were in Dusit, who were attacked, and which hospitals they went to, and who the doctors that saw them. So because the post-traumatic disorders is talking about is that it may manifest itself even after 5-10 years. So let's say if somebody is starting to show some of those signs, and we realize that he was either at the scene of the attack, or he was injured, he was whatever, and he starts showing these signs, then we can even go back and find out from the hospital records who treated him or her, and what interventions can be handled immediately. So that one we are doing using the pillar we have of psychosocial at the NCV strategy. The biggest issue about this issue is about socialization. Can you get back to be socialized into your day-to-day life, your way of life? Can we restore your way of life even after you have been a victim, or even after your relative had been attacked, so that you don't wake up in the night and start screaming and what have you? But the effects on the social and the psycho side are very real and are very devastating if they're not taken through.
Yeah,
and maybe to add to what the Deputy Director has said, through the National Center of Counterterrorism, we have trained psychologists in rehabilitation, in integration, and in psychological intervention countrywide. And one of the things, if the situation in Mombasa, there's a contact. The situation in Taita, there's a contact. The situation in Lodwar, there's a contact. And there's special psychologists who have actually been trained in response, in rehabilitation, in psychological intervention and integration that can be reached at any time, everywhere within this particular country.
Yeah. And I find that important, because these people may have survived, but their lives may never be the same if they're left, unattended. They need to be somebody needs to walk with them through that journey and just help them process that information, and just instill hope in them that it's not a scar, it's something that actually is a story of triumph over something that was really, devastating. Let's talk about this once we come back. Right now, I just want to take our viewers to something that is happening right here in Nairobi. We are still following up on the industrial action by the healthcare workers. Right now, there's a presser by the Kenya National Union of Nurses at their offices. Let's just listen into what they have to say.
Own reasons to come so that they can sign and we finalize the conclusion of resolutions to this strike. Therefore, our members should stay put until such a time that the government, especially the COG, will see it fit for them to come and sign the return to work agreement with us, because they were fully engaged, they were fully present, they were fully represented in the negotiations which were concluded. And the union committed itself to that negotiation and gave all it could so that we could agree, and the agreement was reached, which is on the table of the labor minister. Therefore, we call upon the citizens of this nation to demand for their rights from the governors whom they elected, so that they can see the sense and the suffering of wananchi, then they come and sign the return to work agreement. Failure to which, even if it is going to take 1 year and above before they come to sign, we shall not go back to work, because the issues we raised were genuine. The committees that we were given to negotiate it with also agreed with us. And that is how we drafted the return to work formula. So therefore, there is no reason for any other person, any other entity to come and disagree with that agreement at this level. We call upon the head of state of this nation to intervene with speed so that he can save the citizens of Kenya from the suffering that is being caused by some entities of the government who are refusing to sign the return to work agreement. Our members are fully on strike in all the branches, all the public facilities, and as we made it clear the other time, we are in consultations with the MTRH, that is my Teaching and Referral Hospital, and KNH, that the delays that we are facing and seeing that is overwhelming them in those facilities will not be allowed to go further, and therefore they are going to make their pronouncements of when they are going to start also their strike, so that the government can see the seriousness of the issues which were raised by the health workers in public facilities. Thank you. Any question?
Yes, I have 2 questions.
Yes.
When was the last time that the nurses received their salaries? And what's the union's take on the suspended or fired nurses in Kisumu County?
I want to say that we have nurses who have not received their salaries for 16 months. One of those counties, which after failing
some of the grievances being raised by the healthcare workers. Earlier we were in the coastal region, right here in Nairobi. The situation is similar. You've heard them there just raising their voice on some of the issues that they're lamenting over when it comes to their working environment. Just before we left there, you heard them say, there are nurses who have not been paid their salaries. We've heard them even complain of lack of personal protective equipment. In the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, yet they are the ones who stay in the front line in the battle against this pandemic. They've talked about delayed promotions. Some have worked in the same level over the years, and it's issues that have been raised across different cadres, the clinical officers, the nurses, the doctors who've also gone on industrial action. But right now, the bone of contention remains the fact that they are complaining and blaming the Council of Governors over what they term as not fulfilling their side of the bargain when it comes to the return to work formula for them that have gone back to work. So some have opted to, resume their strike, like the clinical officers. The nurses are still on strike, and we will continue to follow up on this particular story for you just to see how this impasse is going to be resolved, hopefully soon, because they still remain pivotal, especially now that we are battling with a serious pandemic in our country. The back and forth, it's about time it comes to an end so that service delivery at our healthcare facilities can resume as usual. Now in studio, we have been talking about another important matter, that is the war on terror, and we seem to be taking quite a number of steps as a country, as my guests are sharing with me this morning. We're just about to come to the climax of this conversation. And gentlemen, I'd just like us to, take the remaining few minutes of our time to talk about the way forward and what lies ahead. I don't know, as a center, if you can just share with us some of the interventions and programs that probably are lined up for the country going forward that may, prove important in winning this war against terror.
Yeah, thank you very much, Safina. As a center, we have lined up a number of programs. Some of them were building on what we are doing already. Some 2 years ago, we started a conversation with the journalists down on the ground. We moved on to the editors, and just recently now we had the producers and the sub-editors, who are actually the people who, quote, are in the kitchen. Doing the production, the cooking of this whatever, because we felt that the role of the media is very important, and even in the NCV strategy, there's a full-fledged pillar dedicated to media, the role of media, because in as much as we want an informed society, we also want a responsible reporting society, where as a media personality, you put Kenya first before you become a media person. The patriotism and even the rules of the game. We are happy that the Media Council of Kenya has come up with a good manual, which is to control the behavioral patterns of the media. And through these conversations, which we are all doing collaboratively with the Media Council of Kenya and the Editors Guild and all the rest, we are getting into a conversation where we bring all our heads together, because the country has got developed standard operating procedures, so that in case of an attack, who should do what at what time and the rest. And we don't want to have a situation where when the media go there, they are in conflict, let's say, with security agencies. They should know that the media are there to do their role, and security agencies are there to do their role. So where does their role start and stop? At what stage do you come in? At what stage do you stop? And then what value are you adding to this conversation? We are also, as I told you, we are continuing to establish more interfaith registered council of clerics, so that we have them all over the country. In the next few days, we are going to start distributing the booklets of the child safety against violent extremism in all the schools and learning institutions. We also intend to continue having conversation with the deans and registrars of our learning, especially universities, both public and private, because we know the turnover. A number of them that we have talked to, we have trained, they get greener pastures, some of them retire, some of them go to other things.
So it has to be a continuous
process. We also continue with the frontline officers. That is use of the county security intelligence committees. Last year, we were happy to register that we have established county action plans in all the 47 counties in this country, because we have discovered that with the devolved units of government, every devolved unit have their own issues, So at their own level, in their devolved, their county, they can know how to tackle some of these issues that we are talking about better. They are better placed
They
to know
can
that.
custom it their
They
own
custom
interventions.
their own interventions. So we are trying now to see how do we strengthen these county action plans in the various counties. A number of them have picked up very well, but some of them we are still working closely to make sure that they meet the par, so that they can tackle their issues and even get their own funding, so that they don't keep on saying the government come and fund us. How do they do their own resource mobilization at their counties? Because once they own up the threat, they own up the war, then they will come up and say, how do we fund even our own operations and mitigate and prevent the normal people in their counties.
All right, well said, Director. We're running out of time for this conversation, unfortunately, but as we just bringing it to a close, probably Felix, as part of your final remarks, you can also tell us, just add on what he has said, the role of the media. How far is too far?
Yeah, the role of the media is very important. We've trained quite a number in the media. The role of the media is very important. I just want to say that one is that without media, again, I would say that maybe there's no terror. There would not be terror, because they thrive. They thrive on the coverage, and they're assured of free coverage.
So a blackout, is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah. I'm just saying that, of course, you cannot have a blackout, because the public must also be informed about what is happening. It's about just the media being able to get the middle ground, because they need the media to actually propagate their heinous acts. We also need the media to inform us about what is happening. So it's about the media
to balance.
A
tricky balance.
A very, very tricky balance.
Yeah.
And that's why I said by saying that if we have no media, we have no terrorism, because they thrive on that reporting.
Okay, your final word.
Yeah. I think every other stakeholder in this country needs to take the forefront in this war. As a country, I believe we've made a very, very significant step in this. And this can be seen in terms of what we are having at the moment. Every stakeholder, let's take up the public, we have a role. Every other sector, the security, we have a role in this. Professional groups, we have a role in this. And we'll be able to take this country to another level in this war against terror.
All right. Director, your final words?
Mine is just to appeal to all the Kenyans, everybody in this country, to join forces with the efforts the government is doing. They join the National Counterterrorism Center, the initiatives and whatever policies and strategies we are coming up with, so that we work collectively and build resilience against the war, against the threat of terrorism and other organized crimes, because terrorism can't thrive in the absence of other transnational or other organized crimes. So Kenyans to come and know that yes, all these crimes, they feed into terrorism. So if they build resilience against all these threats, all these crimes, then of course we are going to have a more peaceful country, a more lovely country, and then we can restore our faith in our systems and in ourselves. Kenyans need to have faith in themselves as they do these things, not just leaving out to the government operatives.
Believe in yourself.
But let Kenyans believe in themselves and know that this is our country, and this country is for us. The citizen has got the right to take care of their own security and even participate in their security.
All right. That is Joseph Opondo, the Deputy Director, National Counter-Terrorism Center. Of course, also I was having this conversation with Felix Opondo. Both Opondos are clinical psychologists consulting for the center. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for creating time for us. My take home from this conversation, terror thrives on fear and division. And we really need to have this, be strong and resilient for us to win this war. It's not about feeling sorry, feeling weak. It's about believing in ourselves and knowing that we can actually win this war. Thank you so much for creating time for us. We are now going to be paving way for the Swahili version of the program. But for now, the Amani National Congress Party is having a presser talking about the political situation in the country. I understand that they have just endorsed what was proposed, that is the rotational presidency, among other issues. Let's listen into what they have to say. My name is Safina Chieng Oma. I'll be handing this over to Nancy Okware, who will take up right after this particular presser.
in 2018 against his own government to the persecution of Kalenjin ethnic community residing in Narok. Who was inciting? It was Ruto. Did he not incite the Kalenjin ethnic resentment of the government and the Maasai community through 2020 to 2013, 2016 to 2018? Who was that? It was Ruto. When he died in the whole of tribalists other than Ruto, wasn't URP marketed as a party of tribal communities? You know very well. That took lessons of ethnic mobilization from the defunct Kadu. Wasn't ethnic grievances for perceived in
Muone Faisal ndio huyu aliwekelea bid ya TV na ndio hii anaenda nayo. Faisal, hebu tuambie ni vipi uliwekelea bid?
Nilienda kwenye website ya QuickBid. Nikatizama nikachagua kuwekelea kwenye TV. Sasa niliwekelea mara 3. Nikaja kwa mshindi, nikakutana bid yenye imenifanya kwa niko mshindi ilikuwa ni 168. Sasa leo nimekaitwa nikaja nichukue TV yangu.
Haya Faisal, mali yako.
Tukusaidie.
Asante.
Jiunga na QuickBid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bid yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16, kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bid yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bid ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio ununua. QuickBid, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
Nichukulie kwa mfano ndani ya matatu.
Unajua Saturday yaandikangu hivyo.
Ni nini wewe?
Yaani mtu mzima na miaka zake hizo miaka zote. Mtu ajui kujua kuandika note. Note tu peke yake. Kusoma kweli inasaidia.
Kijana, nini nakusumbua na mimi?
Nauliza ni ungwana?
Don't you dare insult me, okay?
Mama Angel,
don't you
point
dare.
me.
Oh, please. Let the dead bury.
They are dead, right?
You're running around. Hizo viatu zake zinanuka. Songea huko. Haya. Kwani ni vita? Ni nini wewe? Yaani wataka kumpiga. Huwezi mpiga, umpige nini?
tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Do you honestly think so?
Yes, I do. But worse than being blind is someone who refuses to see.
Lack
Will you
of
stop trying to make a fool out of me, please? You have done that many times. But I won't allow it again. Listen to me and look into my eyes. I said look into my eyes. I will not allow you to continue making a fool out of me.
Too bad, Father. Juliana can't make it on time for your birthday. I'm very sure that after your rebuff, she wouldn't want to speak with you again.
Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, greetings, Massive and crew. Welcome to the Big Bad Show. This is The Rave,
where radio meets TV each and every Wednesday.
Live on KBC Channel 1 and KBC Radio Taifa. You see me?
This is when you're bad. Wanna listen to my radio. Here's some tune that's sweet. Dance like this. Kill regular dancing. Tunadunda dunda easy. This is when you're bad.
This is where we play with the latest and the greatest from homegrown artists to international reggae stars.
Check in The Rave with Junior Dread and DJ Stano.
Every Wednesday from 10 p.m.
If you blink, you miss the link.
If you ain't going my way.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
You and Nina come from very different worlds, and she'll never look your way.
You're opening up to her heart to heart, and she might not understand you, and she might hurt you.
And obviously, I love him. We have a great friendship.
I saw you last night. I heard you crying.
Now you're about to get married.
That's how life is, dear. Just look at yourself.
Such a shame that the wedding will take place here, instead of at the club. People will think that something may not be right.
Tell me what you did with all that money. Do you take Mr. Ariel Piamonte as your lawfully wedded husband?
Get ready for a 3 weeks Africa Football Feast as the new year kicks off with the 6th edition of the Africa Nations Championship in Cameroon. From the 16th of January to the 7th of February 2021, 16 teams from the continent will be spread across 3 cities as the best players from domestic leagues showcase their talents live on KBC Channel 1. Let's support our own. On the next episode of
Naona kama kiasi hiki hizo zitatosha, sio? Pesa si za kwangu. Kwani wewe unaonaje?
Lazima ujue senti zatoka wapi unazokula. Sikujilia tu na kujistarehesha na nini kama tuonavyo hapa TV, makochi na nini.
Si chake hicho chumba, ni muongo. Nitakusema na wewe nyamazeni, nitakusema si chako. Wacha babako baki kopesha kahawa na mahamri. Wareresha tu zako Malindi. Nyo. Na mswadakta mpenzi mtazamaji, natumai ya kwamba popote pale ulipo umzima. Karibu sana kwenye Tamrini ya Channel 1 ambapo tunazidi kufuatilia matukio mbalimbali humu nchini yote ambayo yamekuwa yakijiri kuanzia hapo jana na vile vile leo hii. Na mojawapo ya taarifa ambayo tunafuatilia ni kuhusiana na mgomo wa wauguzi ambao bado unaendelea baada ya muungano huo kutoa taarifa na kusema ya kwamba bado baraza la magavana halijatia saini makubaliano ambayo walikuwa wameweka, na hivyo basi hawatarejea kazini na wataendelea na mgomo huo ambao leo hii umeingia siku ya 36, na hivyo basi kumaanisha ya kwamba shughuli za afya zimelemazwa katika hospitali mbalimbali za umma humu nchini. Na vilevile kumbuka ya kwamba haya yanajiri wakati ambapo vilevile muungano wa matabibu uliendelea na mgomo huo. Mojawapo ya masuala waliokuwa wakiibua ni kwamba baraza la magavana vilevile halijatia saini yale makubaliano ambayo yalikuwa yamewekwa, na hivyo basi wakarejelea mgomo. Bila shaka ni taarifa ambayo mwanahabari wetu Caroline Kamau anaifuatilia na atakuwa anatupa maelezo zaidi. Na vilevile mtazamaji, hapa kwenye sehemu ya mahojiano nitakuwa nazungumza naye Kevin Kiarie ambaye ni wakili. Kunayo mengi ambayo yamekuwa kijiri nchini katika ulingo wa kisiasa, na bila shaka tutakuwa tunayaangazia kwa kina, lakini hayo yote tutakuwa tunayapata baada ya kupata shajara. Karibu sana mtazamaji kwenye taarifa kamili. Naitwa Nancy Okware na mfasiri wa lugha ishara ni Lensa Odingo. Kwenye mitandao ya kijamii kwenye Twitter ni @KBC Channel 1 @Nancy Okware, na vilevile taarifa hizi zinapeperushwa moja kwa moja kupitia kwenye mtandao wetu wa Facebook @KBC Channel 1 News na vilevile @KBC Channel 1 TV. Na basi moja kwa moja tukianza, ningependa tu tuingie kwenye mjadala wa siku ambapo kama nilivyokuwa nimekufahamisha ni kwamba leo hii tutakuwa tunazungumza naye Kevin Kiarie ambaye ni wakili. Tutakuwa tunaangazia masuala mbalimbali ambayo analigonga taifa hili kuhusiana na siasa la kaunti ya Nairobi. Kumbuka ya kwamba kumekuwa na mzozo ikiwa kutakuwa na uchaguzi mdogo au la, manake kumekuwa na tetesi kwamba Ann Kananu anastahili alikuwa ameteuliwa kuwa naibu gavana, na hivyo basi atakuwa anatueleza tu ni kipi ambacho tunastahili kufanya sasa hivi, mwelekeo ni upi kwa taifa hili na hasa katika kaunti ya Nairobi. Karibu sana Kiarie kwenye studio zetu leo hii.
Asante sana kwa fursa hii. Kwa majina naitwa Kevin Kiarie, kama mlivyosikia mimi ni wakili na pia mimi ni mwanasiasa katika nchi hii. Na kama kijana nina huzuni sana kwa jinsi ambavyo tunaelekea kama nchi. Na mimi nashukuru sana KBC na Nancy kwa fursa hii ili tuweze kujadili mwelekeo kama nchi, kama tunaelekea sawa sawa ama jinsi ambavyo tunaweza fanya ili turudi katika ile barabara ya kupeleka nchi mbele. Asante.
Naam, kuna mengi ambayo tutakuwa tunaangazia ikiwemo kuchipuza kwa vyama vipya wakati ambapo taifa hili linajiandaa kwa uchaguzi mkuu ambao pengine ni mwaka mmoja ambao umesalia. Lakini kwanza kabisa ningependa tuanzie hapa Nairobi, tuzungumze kuhusiana na taarifa ambazo zimekuwa zikigonga vichwa vya vyombo vya habari baada ya kubanduliwa kwake gavana Mike Sonko. Kumekuwa na kesi ambazo zimekuwa zikikumba kaunti yenyewe, na ningependa hasa tuzungumze kuhusiana na urithi wake gavana Sonko. Tunavyofahamu ni kwamba sasa hivi uchaguzi mdogo unaandaliwa, lakini bado watu wako katika atiati ikiwa uchaguzi tutaelekea uchaguzini au bado tunasubiri kusikiza kesi inayohusiana naye Ann Kananu.
Niseme ya kwamba Nairobi tulipata shida kuanzia 2017. Kwa sababu tukiangalia 2017 maybe kuna ule candidate ambaye rais ama mgombea mwenzake walikuwa nataka akuwe gavana hapa. Lakini wananchi wakaamua ya kwamba watachagua gavana Sonko ili akuwe mwakilishi wao katika kaunti ya Nairobi. Lakini tukiangalia kutoka hiyo wakati mpaka saa hii kumekuwa na changamoto mbili tatu hapa Nairobi. Na tukikuja zaidi kuja tuone jinsi ambavyo gavana aliweza kuweka sahihi katika ile mswada ya kupea NMS some powers ama kurudisha some powers kwa national government. Hapo ndio jinsi ambavyo tulikosea sana. Kwa sababu the moment ambayo county government inapea national government some powers, unapata kutakuwa na mvurutano kati ya national government na county government katika utumikiaji wa wananchi. Na tukiangalia katika kipenge cha constitution ama katika constitution yetu ya Kenya ya 2010 kulikuwa na kipenge ya devolution. Na devolution ina kusema ya kwamba kutakuwa na county government na national government. National government hiyo ambayo ndio serikali kuu itafanya ile majukumu ya serikali kuu ya mambo maybe ya mambo ya usalama, mambo ya masomo, mambo ya afya na menginezo ambazo zimewekwa pale katika kipengele cha constitution. Lakini county government kuna zile functions ambazo zilipewa. Na functions hizo ni za kuhakikisha ya kwamba ule mwananchi mdogo katika the lowest point ya county anapata mswada ama anapata suluhisho yake matatizo inaweza kusuluhishwa kwa haraka na kwa jinsi ambavyo inavyofaa. Hapa Nairobi sasa tunavyoangalia last year mwaka wa 2020 pole, tunaangalia kwamba mwezi wa Januari Governor Sonko aliweza kunominate Kananu kama deputy, lakini kukakuwa na mswada, kukapelekwa mswada kule kotini ya kuzuia yeye kuwa appointed, lakini ikakuwa na hiyo taswishi karibu mwaka mzima. Na tulipofika December tuliona Governor Sonko aliandika barua ya kukataa hiyo nomination, ya kusema ya kwamba amefikiria otherwise, retrieve that nomination ya Kananu. Kwa hivyo sasa tunaona ile jambo ambalo liko ni kwamba bado kuna hiyo uoga ya kwamba kuna wale ambao wana uoga ya kwamba Nairobi kikienda by election maybe itaharibu siasa ya 2022 ama itatengenezea mtu fulani siasa ya 2022. Ndio maana unaona kuna hiyo taswishi, lakini kisheria Kananu hafai kuwa appointed sahi. Yes, kwa sababu hata ile limit ama ile time period ambayo ya deputy governor haifai kuwa imezidi siku 60 baada ya kuteuliwa na gavana. Correct. Lakini sasa ilipita miezi ikafika paka December bado hajakuwa appointed, bado hajaweza kufanywa deputy governor, lakini wakati governor ametoka ndio ambapo wanaleta mswada ya kumfanya. Hiyo sidhani hiyo ni haki kwa watu wa Nairobi.
Na pengine wengi watauliza swali kwa aliyekuwa Governor Sonko. Je, ni kwa nini baada ya kumkataa wakati ule akachukua muda bado kabla ya kumteua naibu gavana mwingine? Pengine wakati huu ambapo alihisi ya kwamba uchaguzi ambao alikuwa ameufanya bado haujamridhisha, angehitaji mwingine. Pengine alihitaji muda upi kabla ya kumteua mwingine ambaye atakuwa naibu gavana?
Tuseme constitution ikiongelea mambo hiyo imekuwa silent. Haikusema specific time ambayo governor anafaa kuteua naibu wake. Lakini ina logical manner ama katika ina layman's manner ni kwamba anafaa ya kwamba hata sheria ambayo imesema governor anafaa kuwa na deputy. So ilikuwa katika jukumu lake ya kuhakikisha within a reasonable time ameteua naibu wake ili waweze kutumikia wananchi wa Nairobi. Yeah.
Hivyo basi hapo ndio kulikuwa na hilo tatizo. Correct. Na sasa hivi tunachofahamu ni kwamba Sonko mwenyewe alibanduliwa mamlakani. Tunafahamu yote ambayo alijiri hadi wakati ule ambapo alibanduliwa. Na sasa hivi baada ya kubanduliwa ni kumaanisha ya kwamba kuna pengo katika kaunti ya Nairobi. Ingawa bado NMS inashikilia ule uongozi pale, lakini bado kaunti yenyewe inahitaji gavana. Sasa hivi mwelekeo kwa kaunti ya Nairobi ni upi? Manake kuna kesi ambazo zimewasilishwa leo hiyo. Kio Mtata ameelekea mahakamani akizuia bunge la kaunti ya Nairobi kumpiga msasa Kananu kufikia tarehe 15. Sasa hivi mwelekeo ni upi kwa kaunti ya Nairobi?
Mimi katika hii profession yangu ya wakili tuko na kuna ile sheria ambayo tunasema ya kwamba ufai kuongelea kitu ambayo iko kotini, matter that is pending in court. So mimi ambayo nitasema ni kwamba wacha tungoje kotini. Najua itakuwa katika mkono ya wanasheria wazuri ambao watakuwa na utu na maslahi ya wananchi wa Nairobi. Yes.
Naam. Na tukizungumza kuhusiana na uchaguzi, manake sasa hivi tunaangalia pande zote mbili kwa sasa hivi, manake hatufahamu mahakama itaamua vipi, ikiwa kutakuwa na uchaguzi mdogo ama Kananu mwenyewe atazidi kupigwa msasa na lile bunge la kaunti. Lakini pengine tukizungumza kuhusiana na ikiwa kutakuwa na ule uchaguzi mdogo katika kaunti ya Nairobi, kwanza kabisa ni muda upi baada ya kesi hii kuamuliwa ambapo wale wataanza kujipanga? Manake sasa hivi tushaona kuna wale wagombeaji ambao wameshajitosa kuwania kiti chenyewe cha ugavana.
Unajua mwaka wa jana IBC iliweza kupublish ama ikagazeti ya kwamba Nairobi within 60 days itafaa kuwa na by election. Na hapo ndo tuliona speaker wa Nairobi aliweza kupandishwa mamlaka akafanywa kama acting governor. So bado tuko na hiyo sheria ya constitution ambayo lazima tufuate, that within 60 days lazima kukuwa na by election imefanywa na tukakuwa na gavana mpya. So by February tarehe 18, 19 tunafaa kuwa tumeshakuwa na gavana mpya. Wananchi wa Nairobi wamechagua na nchi imesonga mbele. Yeah.
Na tunapoangalia wale wagombeaji ambao wamejitosa ama wale ambao walionyesha nia ya kuwania kiti cha ugavana, kwa mfano kabisa, wengi walikuwa wanauliza hili swali ikiwa pengine gavana mmoja katika kaunti fulani alikuwa amebanduliwa mamlakani na akaamua kuja kuwania kiti katika kaunti nyingine. Sheria inasemaje kuhusiana na hili swala?
Sheria inasema kwamba tukiangalia katika article 75 inasema kwamba mtu ambaye ametolewa kutoka kwa mamlaka kwa jinsi ambavyo wao walitolewa through impeachment ama through acts of parliament, huyo mtu hawezi ana nafasi ya kusimama katika any other election mpaka kipindi ambacho hiyo term itaisha. Kwa hivyo ndio uliona EACC iliweza kusema ya kwamba mtu kama former governor wa Kiambu Waitito ama Mheshimiwa Songo hawezi simama katika by election.
Hivyo basi umezungumza kuhusiana na mhula utakapokuisha. Tuseme ya kwamba gavana aliyebanduliwa kule Kiambu Ferdinand Waitito alibanduliwa mamlakani katika mhula wake wa kwanza kwa mfano, na angependa kuwania ugavana katika mhula wa pili. Hivyo basi inamaanisha kwamba ataruhusiwa, lakini ikiwa atawania katika mhula ule wa kwanza hataruhusiwa kulingana na sheria.
Correct.
Na sasa hivi tunapoangalia wagombeaji sasa hivi ni kwamba kuna wale ambao kumekuwa na huu mtindo ambapo tumeona wengi wanawania viti mbalimbali kupitia vyama huru. Mtu hana chama chochote anawania kiti mbalimbali, pengine mbunge, gavana. Na tunaangalia sasa hivi ni kwamba kumekuwa na vyama vipi ambavyo vimechipuza kabla uchaguzi mkuu wa mwaka 2022. Kwa mfano kuna chama cha UDA. Chama hiki ambacho kimezinduliwa hivi majuzi kina maana gani katika siasa za nchini kufikia mwaka 2022?
Kwanza, chama cha UDA ni chama cha mahasla. Hivyo nasikia wakisema ya kwamba chama cha UDA ni chama cha mahasla, na wananchi wenyewe ambao walikuwa kule katika hiyo siku ya kupeana kwa zile cheti kwa wale wanaogombea hizi by election walihisi ya kwamba wako nyumbani, kwa sababu tukiangalia hawa ni wale ambao walikuwa Jubilee, lakini jinsi ambavyo kumeelekea Jubilee ni kama iko pamoja. Waliacha kuwa tuko pamoja, ikaacha kuwa wakakuwa ni kama wako pamoja. Na ndio maana unasikia kuna mkono mmoja wa hiyo Jubilee ambayo inasikia kweli hapa tuko nyumbani, na wakaweza wao wenyewe kujituma na wakaweza kusajili chama hicho cha UDA na wakaita hiyo pahali Hustler Center. Na ukiangalia katika hiyo chama cha UDA wako na zile vipengele 3 ama zile ambazo tunaziita 3 ideologies ambayo ni nationalism, kuna demokrasia na pia kuna economic opposition. Ambayo tukiangalia kama nationalism wanasema ya kwamba Mkenya yoyote atajihisi irrespective ama bila kuangalia wewe umetoka pande gani ama umezaliwa kivipi, utajihisi kuwa Mkenya kwa sababu watakupatia fursa. Na katika hiyo kupewa fursa utajihisi na pia utajikimu kuwa Mkenya. Tukiangalia mambo ya demokrasia wanasema ya kwamba wewe mtu wa bodaboda ama wewe mtu fulani uko na kipawa cha kuweza kuomba kura na kuongea na wananchi ili waweze kukupatia na ili wakutume uweze kuwatumikia. So ile mambo ya demokrasia hakutakuwa na mambo hii yenye unaona kuna wale self appointed ama jinsi ambavyo kutoka tumekuwa tukiona katika nchi hii ya kwamba ikifika wakati wa nomination demokrasia inaisha kwa nomination. Kwa sababu kama kiti kidogo cha MCA watu wanapata fursa ya kuiba, then inamaanisha demokrasia yetu inaishia hapo kwa nomination. So hiyo ndio jinsi ambavyo ikifika mambo ya economic position ama economic empowerment, kile symbol pale ya wheelbarrow ni kuonyesha ya kwamba regardless of kazi yako pale ambapo umetoka ama ile hustle yako ya kwamba unaweza kuwa mtu, na ya kwamba katika serikali hiyo ya chama ambayo the next government itatia maslahi makuu sana kwa watu wale wa uchumi ndogo, SMEs. Kwa sababu hao ndio ambao wanafanya ekonomi yetu iweze kukuza uchumi yetu.
Hivyo basi ni swala la kuangalia sera ambazo pengine chama fulani kinazo. Na kama ulivyosema ulipokuwa ukizungumza kuhusiana na hili swala la UDA ni kwamba wale ambao wako katika kile chama wako na ule mwelekeo ya kwamba waliokuwa katika chama cha Jubilee. Na ningependa tuzungumze kuhusiana na sheria inavyosema kuhusu kutoka chama kimoja na kujiunga na kingine. Ama pengine kujiunga na chama kabla hujaondoka katika chama kile ambacho ulikuwa pale awali. Je, sasa hivi ikiwa kuna mmoja ambaye ni amejiunga na UDA na awali alikuwa pengine kwa chama cha Jubilee, mwelekeo ni upi ikiwa atajiweka wazi aseme ya kwamba sasa hivi mimi naegemea upande huu wa UDA?
Mwelekeo wa kisheria ni kwamba ile chama mtu ambacho wako lazima kwanza ujisajili, useme ama ujiondoe, useme, uandike barua, uandikie registrar na pia uandikie labda SG wa hiyo chama. Useme ya kwamba mimi kutoka leo najiuzulu kutoka hii chama kwa sababu ya hizi reasons. Unaona? Na katika hiyo barua uhakikishe umeweka labda ID namba yako, kwa sababu unajua kwa registration wanachukua ID namba. Uhakikishe hiyo barua umepeleka kwa chama imechukua, na hiyo, na hata ukiweza utume copy kule kwa office of the registrar of political parties ndio uweze kuhakikisha kwamba umejiuzulu kutoka kwa hiyo chama. Then after hapo ukishapata hiyo barua ya confirmation ya kwamba umejiuzulu, uende ukajisajili kwa hiyo chama ambacho unataka. Yes. Na
ikiwa pengine ni wewe ambaye umekizindua kile chama kabla hujajiuzulu kutoka kwa chama kingine,
unajua ukiangalia mambo ya kama hiyo unapata wale ambao waliweza kusajili chama hili ni wale ambao wako independent, hawana chama. Kwa hivyo wao kwa kisheria wako sawa. Yes.
Naam. Lakini ikiwa pengine ungependa sasa hivyo basi kumaanisha kwamba chama kenyewe kina ile nafasi kwa wengine ambao wako katika vyama vingine kujiunga, lakini inamaanisha kwamba lazima wajiunge baada ya kujiuzulu kutoka kwa kile chama cha awali na kusema ya kwamba sababu ni hizi na hizi, hivyo basi wanahamia chama kile mpya. Na ningependa tuzungumze kuhusiana na chama cha UDA na kimewasilisha mgombeaji katika kaunti ya Nairobi. Na tunachoangalia ni sasa hivi ni kana kwamba watu wanapimana nguvu kufahamu ikiwa huyu atashinda katika eneo hili. Je, inamaanisha nini katika siasa za mwaka 2022? Inamaanisha ya kwamba una nguvu zaidi kuliko mpinzani wako wa chama kile ambacho pengine awali kilijulikana kuwa na nguvu zaidi. Kwa mfano sasa hivi, kwa mfano ikiwa UDA pengine inyakue ugavana katika kaunti ya Nairobi, itakuwa inamaanisha nini kwa chama hicho kwa mwaka 2022?
Unajua nguvu ya chama ni zile viti ambavyo zimeweza kushinda. Kwa hivyo tukiangalia kwa mfano nguvu wa Jubilee, kama chama cha Jubilee ni wale wabunge ambao waliweza kupata viti wakipitia chama hicho. Hiyo ndio tunaangalianga the strength of the party. Kwa hivyo kwa mfano sasa hivi tukiangalia chama cha UDA ikiweza kushinda Nairobi, then itapatia chama hicho nguvu ya kuweza kupigana na ama kupatana na wale wengine wagombea wenzao 2022. Yes. Na tuongee mambo hata ya Nairobi pekee yake. Kuna Kabuchai, kuna Matungu, kuna Kiamokama, kuna hizo zingine. Kwa hivyo tuna kama UDA, wacha niongee kwa sababu mimi ni mfuasi wa UDA. Kama UDA tunaambia wananchi ya kwamba chama hichi kiko tayari na watu wakuja wajiuzulu, wakuja wajisajilishe na waweze kusupport ama kuunga mkono candidates wa chama cha UDA. Kwa sababu chama cha UDA ni chama ambacho tuko na agenda kama vile tumesema, kuna agenda 3, lakini what is driving us ni kwamba we must change the conversation from power. Najua kama nchi tumekuwa tukiongea mambo ya ukabila kutoka 1963. Ni kabila gani litaongoza ama ni kabila gani mbili zitashikana ili ziweze kuongoza nchi hii. Lakini sasa tunasema ya kwamba tunataka kubadilisha maongozi ya Kenya ama the agenda of Kenya, the conversation from tribe to now people centric. Ya kwamba sasa hii Nancy anaweza kuwa rais bila kuangalia ya kwamba yeye ni yako katika industry ya wanahabari, ama fulani anaweza kuwa deputy bila kuangalia yeye ni mtu wa mkokoteni. Ya kwamba sasa hii ni a person bila kuangalia kabila lake.
Umeibua swala muhimu kuhusiana na ukabila, na tunachofahamu ni kwamba humu nchini baada ya uchaguzi kumekuwa kushuhudiwa ghasia ambazo zimekuwa zikizuka mara kwa mara, na swala ambalo linachochea sana hayo ni swala la ukabila. Na ningependa tuzungumze kuhusiana na yale ambayo Wakenya wamejifunza tangu uchaguzi ambao umepita na sasa hivi ambapo imesalia takriban mwaka mmoja hivi na miezi kadhaa ili tuelekee debeni kufanya uchaguzi mwingine. Unaona ya kwamba Wakenya wamekomaa katika kiwango ambapo tunaweza kuwa na imani ya kwamba tunapoelekea katika uchaguzi mwingine ili swala la ukabila litakuwa limekamilika humu nchini ama angalau limepungua kwa kiasi fulani?
Unajua bila kwenda election sisi wa Kenya tukwangi na ukabila, kwa sababu mimi pale ambapo unakaa ile duka unaenda kununua sukari ni ya Masai, pale ambapo utanunua mboga ni ya kabila fulani, pale ambapo utanunua samaki ni ya kabila fulani. Kwa hivyo wale watu ambao wanaletanga ukabila Kenya hii ni wanasiasa, na wanaleta ukabila kwa sababu ya interest zao. Lakini siku ambayo sisi wa Kenya tutaamka tuseme ya kwamba, lakini naona tukiwadia hapo ya kwamba mimi bila hata kwenda election nimekuwa nikinunulia Masai, nimekuwa nikikunya maziwa ya kabila fulani, na hiyo wakati wote ukifanya hiyo biashara uendai kuuliza huyu mtu ni kabila gani. Tumekuwa tukiweza kusapotiana ama kuinuana bila kuangalia kabila. Lakini ndio nasema I think it's now time for viongozi kuhakikisha kwamba wamebadilisha mswada. Ya kuhakikisha kwamba tukienda election usianze tusilete hiyo mswada ya kabila, kwa sababu tukileta mambo ya kabila tunaharibu nchi hii. Na Wakenya ile ambapo wanataka sana ni empowerment. Kwa sababu wakati kila mtu akona pesa kwa mfuko, mambo ya ukabila ikujangi. Yes.
Naam, hilo swala la ukabila ni ambalo limekuwa likizungumziwa sana hasa katika wiki ambayo imepita, na ningependa tuzungumze kuhusiana na jukumu la viongozi katika kuwaunganisha Wakenya. Manake kama tunavyofahamu ni kwamba humu nchini Wakenya wengi wanafuata yale ambayo viongozi wanasema. Ikiwa wewe unaegemea upande huu, basi kiongozi wako akisema hili inamaanisha ya kwamba wewe mwenyewe kuna ile asilimia kubwa ni kwamba utafuata kile ambacho wamesema. Pengine ni tofauti ipi ambayo tunastahili sasa hivi kuona katika viongozi? Manake unapoangalia hata wanapozungumza kupitia kwenye mitandao ya kijamii, unapoangalia yale ambayo baadhi wanasema ni kwamba wanazungumza masuala ambayo pengine wanapigana viongozi wenyewe kwa wenyewe. Lakini bado kuna lile jukumu la kuunganisha Wakenya. Unaona ya kwamba viongozi wetu wamefeli katika hilo, ama ni kipi ambacho wanastahili kubadilisha wakati huu ambapo tunaelekea katika kipindi ambacho kimejaa joto la kisiasa?
Wamefeli kwa sababu viongozi wetu wamefeli kwa sababu pindi ambapo tunakaribia kuenda election ndio unapatanga wakileta mswada wa ukabila. Lakini before that wanakuanga wakiongea mambo mengine. Lakini tunapokaribia kuenda election, sana sana hii election ambayo ni transitional, ambayo serikali hii inatoka, serikali mpya inakuja, unapata ndio hiyo mswada wa ukabila sana sana inaingianga. Lakini mimi nataka kuongelesha viongozi niwaambie kwamba tunaweza badilisha siasa vile inachezwa. Kwa sababu gani? Tukiongea mambo ya jinsi ambavyo tutainua ama jinsi ambavyo tutainua uchumi yetu, ndio ambapo tutaenda mbele. Na unajua hata ukiinua uchumi au usaidia hata wananchi wadogo peke yake, hata wao wenyewe wanajisaidia, kwa sababu vile tunaelekea tutafika siku moja ambayo utapata kuna two levels peke yake ya wananchi. Kuna wale walalaheri na wale walalahoi kabisa. Walalahoi hawatakuwa na kitu ambayo ya kuweza kula kwa sababu hakuna makazi. So itabidi waende wakule walalaheri ama waibe hao. Ama waibie. Lakini tukiweza kubadilisha conversation na tuhakikisha ya kwamba each and every person ama Mkenya yote kuna equal opportunities na kuna equal rights, then tutakuwa tumepeleka nchi yetu mbele kabisa. Yes.
Na wananchi wenyewe unaona ya kwamba wako na ile nia ya kukumbatia ili swala la kuweka kando ukabila. Unaposikiza wananchi wanapozungumza wenyewe, bali tukiweka wale viongozi kando. Maanake kama ulivyosema ni kwamba wakati ambapo hakuna uchaguzi, utapata ya kwamba mtu kabila fulani amekwenda katika duka la mwingine na kununua pale, na wanatangamana vyema, wanaishi pamoja. Lakini inapofika wakati wa uchaguzi mambo yanabadilika. Je, wananchi wenyewe wako na ile nia kweli ya kubadilika, ama kwa tathmini yako unaona tatizo liko wapi? Ni kwamba watu wanajificha kidogo kabla uchaguzi ndiposa watangamane, kisha wakati uchaguzi ndipo sasa tunaanza kuona ukweli, huyu mtu yuko hivi na vile?
Nina imani ya kwamba wako tayari kubadilika, lakini pia nataka kuweka sisitizo ya kwamba viongozi wetu ndo wakiweza wao wenyewe kubadilisha mjadala, then Wakenya wataweza kuwafuata pamoja.
Naam. Ningependa kurejesha kidogo katika hili swala ambalo tulikuwa tunazungumza kuhusiana na kaunti ya Nairobi. Na kuna hili swala la uongozi tofauti. Ni kipi ambacho kaunti ya Nairobi ingependa kuona tofauti sasa hivi katika uongozi wake? Manake yale masaibu yaliyowakumba viongozi wa awali ni kwamba unapata kuna hili swala la matumizi mabaya ya ofisi. Na sasa hivi kuna ule mpango wa kuelekea kupiga uchaguzi mdogo ikiwa mahakama itaamua ya kwamba kulingana na uamuzi wa mahakama. Je, sasa hivi kaunti ya Nairobi inastahili kuangalia nini tofauti wakati ambapo, ama wakazi wa Nairobi wenyewe wanapokwenda pale debeni, ni kipi ambacho wanastahili kuangalia tofauti wanapomtafuta kiongozi mpya?
Wanafaa waangalie wanaangalia track record ya mtu ambaye wanachagua. Kwa sababu kwa mfano huwezi chagua mtu ambaye ni mtu mgeni kwa mambo ya siasa ama siasa ya maendeleo. Pia ya pili unafaa uangalie manifesto ama manifesto ya huyo kiongozi, kwa sababu kuna ile manifesto nyingine utaona hii kweli katika nchi yetu sahihi si kitu ambayo ni practicable. Then ya tatu tukiangalia mswada agenda ingine ambayo tunastahili kuangalia kama watu wa Nairobi ni kwamba one, mambo ya job creation, na pia tuangalie mambo ya garbage collection. Tuangalie jinsi ambavyo kuweza kusafisha Nairobi yetu. Tukiangalia for instance kama saa hii, unajua Nairobi si hapa mji peke yake. Nairobi kuna huko Mathare, kuna huko hizo vitongoji. Na ukienda huko ndo utaona kweli kuna shida katika Nairobi hili. Kwa sababu utapata kuna pali pengine bado hata hawana choo, hawana pali ya kuweza kujisaidia. Na unaona ukikuja kama Nairobi ukiangalia kama hii mji utaona Nairobi kweli kuna maendeleo inafanyika. Lakini ukienda pali kama Dandora utapata bado kuna ile takataka. Ukikuja pale kama Gikomba, wale watu bado wanabomolewa asubuhi, usiku. Mtu akifunga duka leo, kesho ana imani ya kwamba atapata duka lake likiwa hapo. Atapata either imeangushwa ama kumechomeka. So Nairobi kama watu wa Nairobi tunafaa tuangalie kiongozi ambaye ataweza kuweka hii maslahi yote katika agenda yake ili kuweza kupeleka Nairobi mbele. Yeah.
Na swala la sera, manake viongozi wanapopiga kampeni kile ambacho wanazingatia sana ni sera ambayo kiongozi fulani ako nayo. Lakini unapochukua pengine ile nakala na kuisoma, kuna yale masuala ambayo umetaja, yale ambayo viongozi mbalimbali wanakuwa wakisema ya kwamba nitakapochukua mamlaka basi nitahakikisha kwamba nimewatafutia vijana ajira, pengine nimekusanya taka katika maeneo mbalimbali, ama kuweka mikakati ya kuhakikisha kwamba angalau usafi katika jiji la Nairobi na maeneo yote vitongoji yanazingatiwa. Lakini wakati wa kutekeleza inakuwa tatizo liko pale. Kwa mfano hili swala la ukosefu wa ajira. Vijana wamekuwa wakilia kwa muda, wanamchagua kiongozi fulani sababu amesema kwamba atahakikisha hawa vijana wanapata ajira. Lakini siku hizi kile ambacho vijana wameamua ama wanaambiwa ni kwamba watafute mbinu za kujiajiri wenyewe. Pengine ni mfumo upi ambao wale viongozi wanapopiga kampeni wanastahili kutumia ili kuhakikisha kwamba unapomhaidi mtu kitu, unahaidi kitu ambacho kinaweza kutekelezeka, kama unampa njia ambayo itakuwa ni bora kutekeleza badala tu ya maneno, ilhali ni jambo ambalo unafahamu itakuwa vigumu kutekeleza. Unapata kwa mfano unajua tukiangalia mambo ya ajira, hatumaanishi ya saa ile ofisi. Kuna ajira aina mbili. Naam. Ya kwanza ni ile ajira ambayo unaenda unaempower mtu kwa ile skill ambayo yako nayo. Kwa mfano ukienda pahali fulani kama kule Makadara, utapata kuna wale vijana ambao wanacheza kadanda. Ukiweza kuwakusanya wote, uweze kuempower katika mchezo wao, hapo ndo ambapo tutapata kuna wale Cristiano ama vile akina Mariga walianza. Wanaanza katika hiyo mchezo ndogo, wakaweza kupata mtu ambao atawasaidia na wakajikimu kimaisha. Na through hiyo wakaweza pia wao kufanya ajira na kuandika watu. So tukiongea mambo ya ajira, na ule kiongozi ambaye atachaguliwa Nairobi, angalia aina mbili. Angalia kuna wale ambao wamesoma. Wale ambao wamesoma tutafute avenues ama atafute avenues ya jinsi ambavyo wengi watapata kazi. Na pia wale wengine wale ambao wako skill based ama talanta, waweze kuempower talanta yao. Na si kalenda peke yake, kuna wale wanafanya beauty, kuna wale wanafanya modeling. Kukuwa na hizo avenues za kuempower hawa watu ili waweze wao wenyewe kujikimu. Yeah. Naam. Ningependa sasa hivi tuondoke katika siasa za kaunti ya Nairobi na tuangazie swala lingine ambalo limekuwa likigonga vichwa vya vyombo vya habari hasa wiki ambayo imepita, ile barua ambayo iliandikwa kwake Rais Uhuru Kenyatta naye Kang'ata. Je, tuzungumze kuhusiana hili swala. Je, ilikuwa ni jukumu lake kuandika ile barua kama kiranja wa wengi katika bunge la Seneti? Manake wengi walidhani tu ya kwamba alichukua akaandika ile barua. Je, barua yenyewe iliandikwa kwa misingi ipi? Kwanza jambo la kwanza, yeye kama kiranja wa wengi ako kwa ile leadership ambayo ni kama wale advisors wa rais. Lakini ile model alitumia, nasema ya kwamba either hakupata access ya kuweza kupata rais, akaona yeye mwenyewe atumie media kupelekea ujumbe kwa rais. Kwa sababu unaweza pata mara mingi labda hiyo ndo aliona njia rais, kwa sababu either labda ametafuta rais naye rais hakuweza kupatikana, ama alikuwa unajua kuna ile kipindi ambacho rais ako holiday. So either alimtafuta na hakumpata, na aliona kwamba hii ni agenda ya haraka sana, kwa sababu of course hiyo wakati hiyo kipindi hicho kila mtu alikuwa mashinani. Na maybe akiwa mashinani akiongea na wananchi, akaona ya kwamba BBI kuna hii masuala 2-3 ambayo wananchi wapendi, ama kuna ile mwelekeo ambayo inaelekea,
na kama agenda ya rais haitaelekea mzuri. Kwa hivyo wacha mimi kama kiongozi wa wengi, wacha nichukue fursa hii niambie rais ya kwamba tukibadilisha hivi na hivi ama hivi na hivi ndio watu wanasema hapa mashinani.
Na pengine mfumo ambao ulitumika kama ulivyosema kutumia ile barua, na kuna zile barua ambazo huandikwa, pengine unaandika barua na kumpelekea yule ambaye anahitajika kuisoma peke yake, lakini iliyoandikwa kuna ile ambayo inaitwa hiyo open letter. Pengine tueleze barua ile athari zake zinaweza kuwa zipi kwa mtu yeyote ambaye anaandika, manake ikiwa ujumbe wako ulikuwa ni kwa mtu fulani, kuna pengine mbinu zingine ambazo zinaweza kutumika.
Kuna athari mingi ya kwamba, kwa sababu utapata ya kwamba walisema kuna katika BBI committee kuna chair na co-chair. Wanasema ya kwamba angetumia hiyo channel apeleke kwa chair ama co-chair, itoke hapo ndio iende kwa rais. Lakini pia athari nyingine ni kwamba barua hili linaweza hata yeye mwenyewe kumcost kiti yake ya hiyo kiranja wengi. Kwa sababu utapata maybe after hiyo the referendum wataweza kumuondoa katika kiti hicho. Lakini ya pili ama ya tatu ni kwamba barua hili maybe ilibadilisha mwelekeo wa BBI sana, kwa sababu maybe kuna wale ambao walikuwa wanaunga mkono ambao watoki Mount Kenya, lakini wanaona kama Mount Kenya yungi mkono, wanaona hii mswada itaanguka, wakabadilisha mwendo wao. So hapo ndo taswishi iko.
Na pengine sasa hivi wale ambao wanaunga mkono BBI yenyewe, ni kipi ambacho wanastahili kufanya hasa katika eneo la Mlima Kenya ili kuhakikisha kwamba watu wanahamasishwa vya kutosha kuhusiana na ripoti yenyewe? Manake sasa hivi kuna zile hatua ambazo zimepigwa katika kuanza kutekeleza ripoti yenyewe. Sahihi zilishachukuliwa katika kuhakikisha kwamba katiba inafanywa mabadiliko, lakini kuna hili swala la wengi bado wanasema ya kwamba kuna wale wa Kenya pale mashinani bado hawajaelimishwa vya kutosha. Ni kipi ambacho sasa hivi kinastahili kufanywa licha ya safari yenyewe kung'oa nanga, lakini bado kuna wale ambao pengine wanastahili kabla ya kura ya maamuzi bado wanastahili kuambiwa ya kwamba fanya hivi na hivi, ama unastahili kufahamu hili na hili, umuhimu wa BBI ni huu. Pengine ni kipi ambacho sasa hivi kinastahili kuwa kikifanywa?
Pale ambapo walikosea ni kwamba hawakufanya hizo copies ziweze kufika mashinani. Utapata majority of wananchi hawako kwa WhatsApp. Ama wale ambao wako kwa WhatsApp hawana ile tunaita data bundles. Kwa hivyo kusema ati hiyo BBI ama hiyo ripoti iliweza kusambazwa through WhatsApp, itakuwa utapata asilimia watu 70 hawakuweza kufikiwa na ripoti hilo. So wangefanya hivi kama advice, wangeweza kutoa copies na kisha ya kwamba wameweza kuitranslate kwa lugha ambayo wao wananchi wataelewa. Na si Mount Kenya peke yake, nchi yote. Ukienda kama Nyanza, kisha ya kwamba iko kwa hiyo lugha ambayo wananchi hapo wataelewa. Ikifika hivyo, ikienda Mount Kenya ama ikienda pale lingine huko North Eastern, na kisha kwa ile lugha ambayo wao wenyewe wataelewa. Na make sure kuna copies mingi. Then jambo lingine, watumia wanasiasa. Waache kutumia provincial administration, kwa sababu provincial administration wanatumia ile force. Watatumia ile force ya kuhakikisha wananchi anasoma. Na mwananchi sana sana utapata atasikiza ule mbunge wake. Kwa sababu labda anapenda ule mbunge wake, na ule mbunge wake akikuja amueleze, ameweza kuna kipenge hii itasaidia sisi hivi ama hivi na hivi na hivi, tuweze kupitisha. Yes, ama kuna hili na hili ni mbaya. Wananchi waseme hii tukibadilisha hii, then sisi tutaweza kuiunga mkono.
Hivyo basi licha ya kwamba sasa hivi safari yenyewe imeng'oa nanga, bado kuna kuhitaji ya kwamba Wakenya zaidi wazidi kuelimishwa kuhusiana na ripoti yenyewe. Manake ni kweli ya kwamba kuna wengi ambao hawajasoma, na kama ulivyosema ni kwamba utakuta kuna yule Mkenya ambaye anaposikia kiongozi fulani anasema ripoti yenyewe inasema hivi na hivi, basi anaifuata. Lakini utafahamu ya kwamba mwelekeo huo utakuwa bora kwa yule Mkenya, manake utapata pengine kuna yule kiongozi ambaye haungi mkono ripoti yenyewe, ama ile kutranslate anaichukua, lakini jinsi ambavyo anaieleza kwa yule mwananchi inakuwa ya kwamba imepoteza maana. Hivyo basi tunatumia kwamba Wakenya watazidi kuelimishwa kuhusiana na ripoti yenyewe, na ningependa tuzungumze kuhusiana na hili swala la kuelimisha umma. Kuna mfumo bora wa kuelimisha Wakenya humu nchini, ama bado kuna pengo ambalo linastahili kuzibwa ili kuhakikisha kwamba Wakenya wanaelimishwa na vile kuhusishwa katika uamuzi mbalimbali ambao unafanywa kwa masuala ambayo yanawahusu?
Jambo lingine jambo ambalo tunafaa tufanye kama nchi ni kwamba tunafaa tugeuze, ikifika katika kuelimisha, ninge advise watumie zile tunaziita CSOs ama civil society, kwa sababu civil society utapata mara mingi haina ile political affiliation. Lakini ukitumia mwanasiasa ambaye anaunga mkono jambo hilo, then ataweza kueleza wananchi ili aweze kufurahisha wananchi ama jambo ambalo wananchi wanataka kusikia. Lakini ukitumia CSOs ama zile organizations, CBOs, whatever, hizo NGO, ukiweza tumia hizo ziweze kueleza wananchi ama ichukue jukumu hilo kufanya civic education, then utapata kutakuwa na enlightenment ya Wakenya wote. Na hapo ndipo Wakenya wataweza kuchukua ama kuamua wao wenyewe ya kwamba mimi nimeunga mkono kwa sababu nimesikia hapa kama hapa kwetu tunaongeza constituency moja, ama pesa inafika mashinani, ama pesa itaongezwa mashinani, na hapo nitaunga mkono. Yeah.
Manake yale ni makundi ambayo hayagemei upande wote. Hivyo basi maslahi yao ni kumjuza yule mwananchi kuhusiana na yale ambayo yamesemwa, ili mwananchi mwenyewe naye afanye uamuzi ambao wanaona unastahili. Na mwisho kabisa tunapoangazia hii ripoti ya BBI, sasa hivi hatua ambayo imeafikiwa ni kwamba IEBC inafanya ile shughuli ya kuidhinisha zile sahihi. Ningependa tuzungumze kuhusiana na muda ambao IEBC inastahili kuchukua kuidhinisha sahihi zenyewe, manake vile tunafahamu ya kwamba ikiwa watachukua muda zaidi inamaanisha kwamba fedha zaidi zitatumika, na vile mchakato mzima utakuwa umeanza kuchelewa kidogo.
Jambo la kwanza ama jambo la muhimu ni kwamba hatuwezi kuwa na referendum kama 1 year towards election, kwa sababu ndio sheria inasema ya kwamba mswada yote ya kubadilisha katiba lazima iwe 1 year before the general election. Na tukiangalia ile speed ambayo tunaenda saa hii, agenda ya kwanza ya IEBC ni mambo za by election. Kwa hivyo na by election itachukua miezi 2-3. Kwa hivyo tukiangalia mswada yote paka watu kupeleka, maybe kuna wale ambao watakuwa na taswishi yote kwenda kotini na nini na nini, tukipatia hadi Mei tutakuwa tumemaliza by election zote na tumerudi normal. Kwa hivyo wao hiyo process yote ya kurudi ku verify na kufanya jambo hili na kuenda county assemblies, then tutakuwa na wakati wa kuenda referendum.
Hivyo basi ni kumaanisha kwamba sasa hivi IEBC na kile kibarua kikubwa kuhakikisha kwamba uchaguzi mdogo umekamilika na vile wanamaliza ile shughuli yenyewe ya kuidhinisha zile sahihi. Na unapoangalia IEBC fedha ambazo imepata na vile ambavyo wamekuwa wakizungumza katika vyombo vya habari kuhusiana na kucheleweshwa kwa fedha, pengine unaona ya kwamba pengine kwa msimamo wako unaona kwamba itawezekana kwao kumaliza kuidhinisha hizi sahihi na vile kuendesha ule uchaguzi, zile chaguzi ndogo ambazo zinatarajiwa humu nchini?
Na haitawezekana. Haitawezekana kwa sababu tukiangalia mswada saa hii IEBC wanahitaji pesa ambayo nchi hakuna. Kama leo nimeona the Council of Governors wamesema ya kwamba 15% bado hawajapata na wanataka kwenda kotini kwa sababu national government haijarelease pesa. Jambo ya kuhuzunisha ama ya kufurahisha ni kwamba katika BBI inasema ya kwamba wataongeza pesa kutoka 15% to 35%. Mimi nataka kuambia Kenya jambo hili halihitaji sisi kufanya constitutional change ama amendment. Yaani kwa sababu constitution imesema a minimum of 15%. Kwa hivyo national government inaweza amua itapea county governments 30%, 40%, 60% bila kubadilisha mswada katika constitution. Then jambo lingine ni kwamba saa hii ile pesa ambayo IEBC inahitaji hata kufanya hizi uchaguzi mdogo ni pesa mingi. Na bado Wakenya wanaumia, na bado madaktari saa hii unaona wamerudi kwa kugoma. Kesho yake utaona walimu tena wakirudi kugoma kwa sababu issue za mask, issue za nini. Na bado saa hii ule Mkenya mdogo anaumia juu ya madhara ya COVID-19. Kwa hivyo mimi nataka kuomba serikali ya kwamba tunaweza postpone hii jambo ama tuifanye iweze kuwa mswada ya bunge ipitishe ile mswada ambazo tutaona ya kwamba hii kweli hii ni important ama ni urgent katika nchi hii, ama hii itasaidia nchi kusonga mbele. Na hiyo mswada kama hizo zinahitaji tu kupitishwa pale bungeni.
Hivyo basi kwa sasa hivi kwa tathmini yako ni kwamba itakuwa ni vigumu kwa IEBC kufanya kazi inayotosha kuridhisha wale ambao wanafanya ule uchaguzi mdogo na vile hili swala la kuidhinisha zile sahihi. Na hivyo basi ikiwa hayo yatafanyika na ya kwamba bado kuna yale masuala ambayo yanahitaji kuelekea kwa kura ya maamuzi, ikiwa IEBC itashindwa kuidhinisha zile sahihi kabla ya ule muda ambao unastahili kabla ya uchaguzi mkuu, kuna nafasi yoyote ambayo pengine serikali ama wale ambao wanaunga mkono BBI yenyewe wako nayo kikatiba pengine kuishawishi ama kuifanya IEBC bado iidhinishe zile sahihi baada ya ule wakati ambao unastahili? Kuna nafasi yoyote kweli?
Hakuna nafasi. Hakuna, kwa sababu ukiangalia hata jambo la kwanza, hata tuseme IEBC iweze kuidhinisha hizi sahihi na iende county assembly, then itoke county assembly kuja national assembly, tashwishi itakuwa ya kwamba National Assembly, jambo la kwanza, the retired Chief Justice Maraga alisema ya kwamba National Assembly kwanza iko unconstitutional, na akavunja na akapea advisory opinion, akaambia rais ya kwamba vunja hii bunge. So mimi najiuliza ya kwamba mswada gani ambao itapitishwa na bunge saa hii iweze kuwa halali, kwa sababu kitu ambalo imeshapeanwa opinion ya kuvunjwa ni kitu ambayo inaonyesha ni kitu illegal. Kwa hivyo ile mswada ambayo itapeanwa kwa bunge itakuwa mswada illegal already. Yeah.
Na mwisho kabisa tukizungumza kuhusiana na hili swala la BBI, kama wakili unaona ya kwamba katiba ya awali ilipewa muda wa kutosha? Maana kama tunavyofahamu ni kwamba kila swala huenda likibadilika, ili ikiwa kuna pengo ambalo linaonekana katika katiba yenyewe, mabadiliko yanafanywa mara kwa mara ili kuhakikisha kwamba mnapata suluhu kwa matatizo ambayo yanawakumba wa Kenya. Je, unaona ya kwamba katiba ya awali ilipewa muda wa kutosha ama ilitekelezwa vile ambavyo inastahili?
Bado tutaweza kutekeleza katiba hili vizuri. Na ukiangalia katika katiba hili imesema ya kwamba after 10 years ama baada ya miaka 10 kutaweza kuwa na zile reviews ya kuangalia kama tumefanya either imeidhinishwa vizuri ama bado. Na katika hiyo 10 years jambo ile ambalo tungeweza kubadilisha ama kuweza kusensitize sana ni jambo la gender rule. Kwa sababu hilo ndio jambo ambalo hatujaweza kuitekeleza kabisa. Kwa sababu tukiangalia mambo ya 2/3 gender rule utapata bado bunge ama katika national government bado hakujaweza kuwa na ile 2/3, haijaweza kutimizwa vizuri. Kwa hivyo ile mswada ambao tunafaa kuwa tukiongelea saa hii ni njia gani tutachukua kama nchi ya kuhakikisha ya kwamba hata ile gender nyingine ya wanawake watasikia kwamba kweli tuko na hiyo representation mzuri. Vijana watasikia kwamba representation yetu iko sawa, na si kwa bunge peke yake. Tukiongelea mambo ya national government tutaongelea pia kwa parastatals na tuongelea pia kwa appointments za cabinet. Tumefika ama tumetimia pale ambapo tunafaa kama nchi, ama bado tuko na room ya kuweza kuitekeleza zaidi. Tukiongelea pia mambo ya devolution tunaelekea vizuri, lakini shida ni jambo hili la pesa ifiki mashinani, ama hizi county governments hazipati hizo 15%. Kwa hivyo kama nchi tunafaa ama kama national government wanafaa watafute avenues za kutafuta pesa ili waweze kuhakikisha kwamba hii 15% already ambayo iko set out imefika before tuongee mswada ya kuongeza hiyo kutoka 15% to 35%.
Mwisho kabisa, ningependa tu kauli yako kuhusiana na hili swala la siasa za mwaka 2022 na hususan kuhusiana na miungano ambayo tunashuhudia sasa hivi. Unapata ya kwamba kiongozi fulani alikuwa upande huu, baada ya swala fulani kufanyika akahamia upande huu mwingine, na bado kuna muda kabla uchaguzi mkuu kufika. Na kama wengi wanavyosema ni kwamba siasa ni mchezo mchafu, ya kwamba kuna wale ambao huwezi ukawaamini. Miungano ambayo tunashuhudia sasa hivi, tunatarajia kwamba ina uwezekano ya kwamba itadumu hadi wakati wa uchaguzi, ama bado Wakenya watarajie kuona mambo yakibadilika hapa na pale?
Ya kwanza wanasema siasa ni pata potea. Na katika hiyo mlengo wa siasa ama katika mchezo wa siasa utapata kuna hiyo miungano mingi ambazo zitakuja. Unajua wanasema siasa ni interest. Utapata mtu anakuunga mkono kwa sababu ya interest yake. Pengine mimi nataka kuchaguliwa pahali fulani. Na nikienda hiyo pahali nasikia ule mtu ambaye anavuma hapo ni mtu fulani. So itabidi mimi mwenyewe niruke niende hiyo pande ndio ili niweze kupata ile tikiti ya chama yake niweze kuchaguliwa. Lakini tukiangalia ama nieleze wa Kenya kwamba kutakuwa na miungano mingi na kutakuwa na hiyo mrukaruka ya hapa na pale. Kwa hivyo Wakenya wawe tayari, wakipata miungano mingi zimekuja wasiwe na shaka ama wasikuwe na ile uoga ya kwamba huyu alikuwa pande hii ameenda. Hiyo ni hali ya siasa na hiyo itazidi tu kuwa hapo.
Naam, shukran sana. Bila shaka tumefika kwenye tamati ya mahojiano hayo, lakini nakushukuru sana kwa muda wako na vilevile kwa kauli yako kuhusiana na hii mada ya siku. Na basi mtazamaji, tumekuwa tukizungumza naye Kevin Kiaria ambaye ni wakili. Tumeangazia mengi ikiwemo kuhusiana na siasa za kaunti ya Nairobi na vile mchakato wa BBI, na bila shaka tunatumai ya kwamba umenufaika na mahojiano ya leo. Na basi kufikia hapo nafika kwenye tamati ya Tamrini. Shukran sana kwa wote waliotazama na vile wote waliofanikisha taarifa hizi. Mengi zaidi utakuwa unayapata mwendo wa saa 7 kamili kwa lugha ya Kimombo. Naitwa Nancy Okware, mfasiri wa lugha ya ishara ni Lensa Odingo. Kwa heri, tukutane tena hapo kesho.
Praise the Lord and shalom. My name's are Apostle Edgar Jakarta. Our church is Fountain of Christ Restoration Ministry. We are based in Roy Block 10. I have a privilege to bring this encouragement unto you this hour before you leave, and thank you for watching. I want to bring an encouragement to you that there's hope for tomorrow, child of God. And believe this word that there's hope for tomorrow as long as you are in Christ Jesus. And we are going to get our reading from the book of Job 14, verse number 7. The Bible says, for there's hope of a tree if it's been cut down, that it will be sprout again, and that it will tender branches. Therefore, child of God, I want you to understand, this is Job speaking. And I want you to understand the life of Job. Who was Job? Job gone through a lot of, so many things in life. Job is someone that lost even his own family. Job was a millionaire. Job had everything. Like before, now in our country, before the COVID-19, there were people that were living well. There were people that were taking the 3-4 meal in a day. But there were people that they could not go with a matatu. There were people that they when they go to the bank, they were being taken to a special room to sit and count the money. But today, there's something has come and has cut them off.